Like I started off, family, it don't matter what your religion is. It's not about that. We gotta come together no matter what. We gotta help each other no matter what. If we don't, then our whole civilization, all of our people of color, will be destroyed. And that will be the first time in history that it ever happened. As we're about to read in the story of Exodus, it starts talking about how the oppressor had made a plan to destroy all the men in Israel. But we already know that they got a plan out here to destroy all the men. The story in the book of Exodus is very much like the story of today's time that we're going through today.
This prophet didn't say, well, you got to go get me a certain type of food. He said, I'm not eating nothing in this place because y'all are idolaters.
Echo. I think something's loud.
Oh yeah, I know someone who's much higher. Yeah, I know someone who's much higher. When I see Rome prospering wherever they go, I envy the wicked so much that my feet were gone. But now I hold on to someone I know is strong. He my rock and fortress. I put my trust in Yahweh. Then you and me, that the whole world can see. Oh yeah, my King here, he protects us all, and he heard my call. Your burdens down and give them to Yahweh. He must. Then you and me, that the whole world can see. Oh, Yahweh, he protects us all, and he heard my call. No, yeah, Yahweh, I used to worry about my bills get paid. I used to worry about all of my enemies. I used to worry about if my friends would stay. But now I take my problems and give them to Yahweh. He moves. Then you and me, that the whole world can see. Protects us all, and he heard my call. Yeah, Yahweh is higher. I used to worry, but I don't know more, and I don't wanna think I've been through. You know he pulled me through, and I don't worry about me.
You're on mute.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. My precious brothers and sisters. Shabbat Shalom. May the Most High be with you all. All right. So today is the Shabbat day. And we don't have a message for you this morning other than the message that comes naturally. There was a lot of things that, since our last broadcast when we talked about how we abuse our children, allow our children to run over us, and don't discipline our children, For some reason, I don't know if it's an algorithm, I don't know what it is, but for some reason I kept getting those posts all week that was talking about the importance of disciplining your children. I pray that that message hasn't went over above the heads of anyone. I pray that no one got upset and decided that they don't want to, hear the messages or listen to the things that was being said. But a lot of times, family, we just gotta understand life and the processes of life, which means that we won't always agree with the message when the message comes across the board. We won't always like the message when the message comes across the board. And it's not our place to look at the messenger, it's our place to observe the message and see if the message applies to anything in our lives that's relevant and how we might be failing the Creator or making short turns and shortcomings in our life to cause our children to head in a certain direction. So, I just want you all to be mindful that when we spend our time here teaching and guiding and bringing forth understanding for the children, for the family, for the people to learn, we're not doing this with one or two particular people in mind. We do it for a whole in how our society and how our people are growing on a whole. We don't point out or individualize or single out people for any reason that you may think it is. We don't do that. We actually look at the whole picture and the whole situation as much as we can see with our eyes, our understanding in our mind, and hear with our ears, as much as we can visualize in those senses. In the spiritual sense, those are the things that we speak on. When the Most High delivers to us a message, we obey that message and we speak on those messages and we give them to the people. But I know that sometimes it may be a little uncomfortable to hear that you might know somebody or you might be involved with somebody who has some of the things that we talk about, that we discuss. It's not just that these messages are engineered or geared toward one or two certain individuals. It's not. It's for us as a whole, because the things that we discuss is to bring awareness to you, so you will be aware of some of the things that either you or someone else may do within the listening audience, so that you can change your ways or change your behavior so that the Most High will be more pleased with you. What I've learned is that oftentimes we're very sensitive toward our own actions and very judgmental toward the actions of others, which means that we don't see sometimes of the things that we do. We don't see sometimes the things that we do to offend others or to just be wrong, just straight out wrong. We don't often see those things that we do, but we are quick to throw blame and judgment on what someone else does. Now, you could have been raising your child completely wrong, but because it's your child and because you birthed them and because you're the only one paying the bills in that household, you feel like you don't want somebody telling you what to do. So you're going to do it the way you're going to do it. Here's an example for anyone out here that's listening. If you have multiple children and some of your children are older in age, what you should look at is sit down and examine how you raised them, and look at how you want the outcome of your future children to be versus the outcome of your older children that you've already raised. If you got, now let's just paraphrasing, and if you happen to be one of the ones that this is talking about, then this message is for you. Because I don't know, I'm just saying, I'm just teaching. And if anything that I teach on happens to hit it home with you, it's because that message was for you. So you talk to the Most High and allow the Most High to continue to work with you so you can get notice to this problem. Now, if you got older children, and then you got younger children that you're raising up to get to the age of your older children. Let's say your older children is 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. Even older, 20s, 30s, even older. But usually you want to catch them while they're young. And your child, let's say you got a male child, and he's showing homosexual tendencies. He's real soft and timid, and he actually does homosexual activities that you think are too feminine for a male child. And you think about how you raised him and some of the things that you did, especially when you're hearing the lessons that Prince has. You think about some of the things that Prince gives you as a characteristic trait for a homosexual child, or a discipline trait that you're not disciplining your child in, that you may see that would create, per Prince's words, some homosexual tendencies. If you see that your older child has those homosexual tendencies, then you wouldn't want to raise the younger generation that's coming up after him the same way that you raised the one that you see with the homosexual tendencies. Of course, there will be some things that you will do, but the majority of the things that you think, and it's just you sitting down analyzing, doing some research and studying. If you see and you come out with some things that you see that in your mind you think contributed to your child's behavior unapproved by you, then you should change that up in the way that you're raising the other children so that they don't come up in the same manner. But you also have to watch this, because this is a fact. Sometimes when the older child has homosexual tendencies, they tend to take that out on the younger generation, especially if they feel like the younger generation is receiving something that they're not receiving. And what I'm talking about is some of your other children could be affected by your older children. And you have to be mindful of this. Now, don't get mad at Prince. Oh, Prince, you can't say my child would do this or my children did that. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that your child did or did not do anything. What I'm stating is facts that I know, because I've witnessed it with my own eyes, that a lot of the older children who are sexually abused sometime in their lives will turn around that sexual abuse and pass it down to generation to generation to generation, meaning his younger siblings or family members or friends that they have the opportunity to pass it down to. Now, sometimes we as parents, we don't want to live that reality. So when we hear messages that we already know that may be true in our minds, it upsets us and we don't want to hear what Prince has to say. These are the realities of the times that we're in. There are sicknesses and illnesses within our people that must be addressed. And if we're not willing to discuss it and talk about it and then address it, then these things are going to forever be upon us. We have to deal with these issues. If we don't deal with these issues, things are never going to change for our people. Israel has a very, 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 very sickness when it comes to sexual actions. And now it's even within our youth. Our youth are sexually involved with their siblings and neighbors and friends of their age or lower, because they themselves was approached and attacked at some time in their lives. It's very rare that it just comes out of thin air. Usually some influence, or uncle, or aunt, a cousin, a friend, family relative, some kind of way, somebody intruded upon them. And they embraced that, and now they are predators to others. Now, this is a harsh reality that a lot of us don't want to accept, but it's true. Just like you sisters, a lot of you have to understand. Now, I know you want a husband. I know you're desiring a husband, and you're trying to prepare yourself for a husband, but you have a few children. You have to be careful, because a lot of those males that will come into your life, 30, 40, even 20s, even in their 20s, it could be of any age, has been subjected to a sexual demon, meaning that somebody could have messed with them. And now they coming into your home because you think they cool. You got to be real careful about this, and you got to watch. And you always have to give your children the benefit of the doubt and protect them to your utmost. Because there are a lot of predators that when you in the bed sleep, they pretend to go get some water, walk past the bathroom, but make a stop at your daughter's room or even your son's room. You got to be careful. You have to be careful. And if your children ever tell you that this is taking place, you have to pay special attention to them and approach the situation skillfully and intelligently, but these things happen. A lot of times the uncles ain't no good. The stepfathers ain't no good. Different family relatives. Sometimes the pastor at the church that ain't no good. All these videos I got on my YouTube page of pastors. The last video I got on my YouTube page of pastors was a pastor having intercourse with his son, his biological son. And both of them was of age, and a woman caught him. And when the woman caught him, the son beat the woman up. These things are real, but they seem so far away from your mind because you're not that type of person. So you think these things are so far removed from you, but they're not. Sometimes they're right in your house. Sometimes when you let your children go to stay the night over their cousin's house, their cousin's stepfather, he's the one. All I'm saying to you is don't be so quick to let your children go to spend the night with someone else in someone else's home unless you are 100% sure, the best you can possibly be, that no sexual demons are present in that home on that level that will cause your child to be violated. You have to be certain. You have to be certain because these things are real. All right? And if you happen to have any reason to suggest that your child may be one of these victims of a sexual predator, there are hotlines that you can call. But then today, mental hotlines where you can call to get mental treatment. But today, in this world that we're living in, because this world is so wicked, you can't tell them certain things because they'll come take your child out of your home. You can't tell them certain things because they would assume that you had something to do with it and you could be totally, completely innocent. So you may want to reach out to a spiritual leader somewhere, someone that you can trust, because this world got something for you that you would have never imagined because you have such a good spirit. You have such a kind spirit. You're such a pleasant person. And you really try to give your all to the Most High. But there are demons out here in a negative sense that are out here to destroy, to annihilate, to kill, to damage. And these demons will possess your child in a young age and have your child thinking that he can get away with these things, and he will attempt to do it. Now, if he get caught, you got him, but where do you go from there? If you catch him, how do you correct that? What's the next step? What do you do after that point? Once it's exposed and you realize it, how do you deal with them after that? You have to seek out mental treatment. First, you got to do isolation. You got to do a whole lot of praying and fasting with them. You have to. It's just some horrible things that takes place in our everyday lives that we try to ignore and pretend as if it's not real. Sometimes it be in the bloodline. And what I mean by being in the bloodline, it be learned behavior handed down from your mother, handed down to you, or your father, handed down to you, that you give down to your children, and they grow up being the same way. So it's just a hard thing to put your finger on and say if you remove that from your raising of your child, then it won't happen. It's very difficult to put your finger on and say that this is what it is, and as long as you do this, you'll be fine. Because your child has to be disciplined, your child has to be taught, your child has to be educated, your child has to have the completeness of a family structure to the best of his ability, to be raised up to the best of his ability in this society that we're living in today. Because I'm going to tell you, you think you're doing something innocent by allowing your child to spend a night over his homie's house or his buddy's house, and you don't think nothing's going on, but your child that you let go stay the night over his friend's house, his homie's house are both homosexuals, and you don't know it. And one is having intercourse with the other. They 14, 15 years old. What they doing something like that? But the reality is that you are allowing it to take place because once you found out that your child had this type of illness or sickness, you did nothing to prevent it. And you give your child freedom to roam and to explore and to abuse other children. And that shouldn't be. You have to hold yourself guilty to a point when you allow that to happen. You do. Although we think that that's the furthest thing from our reality. This could never happen. My child would never. We all want to think that. But it's not true. In many cases, it's not true. Some cases it is true. Your child is a perfect child in that area. And your child would never do that. But have you ever talked to your child to see what type of thoughts they have? If your child trusts you that much, that they would open up to you in that manner? Have you ever spoken to them and allowed them to really tell you the type of thoughts that they have in their minds? And what they meditate on? You know? And what crosses their spirit? I'm not talking about just cross their spirit and keep on crossing. I'm talking about cross their spirit that they sit there and they think about it for a while. And think about how it can and how it can't. We got to be careful. And a lot of times, these demons live within our household. No matter how perfect you think your home is, a lot of us have those demons living right there with us, and we tell them that we love them every day. We give them hugs and kisses, and we feed them every day. We got to be careful. We have to be careful, because this world has something for you. This is a wicked place. A wicked place. I seen this one video where this young lady was in her school, in class, in the closet, in the coat closet, and a little boy came in and did the thing to her. A little boy came in and took advantage of her. Just so happened that she had enough nerve to tell her parents, and the parents dealt with the issue. But this is horrible. Anywhere you go, that's why it's a good thing to do homeschooling. That's why GHA at Temple Kifarim will be a good school for you, because you can keep your children in the confines of your own home and do what you need to do with them. All I'm asking you, family, is don't fall asleep on this, because this is an evil reality of the world that we are living in today. Sexual perversions, sexual demons, they are all over the place in many facets of life, and we don't be thinking that is real. But I'm telling you, it's real. I pray that the Most High be with you, and that the Most High will bring his protection upon you all. And if these situations are taking place in your life, get your child some therapy. Seek out some therapists that can really help your child, that's geared toward the mental rehabilitation of a child. You also have to watch the foods that you give your child to eat, because a lot of these foods today carry an ingredient called atrazine, a protein called atrazine, what that they add into the food to cause the stimulations of different or the opposite sex to take place. Turn young men into females and females into young men. You find that in a lot of plastic called BPAs, lactates. A lot of these things are in the natural things that we eat, like in plastics that we use to drink our juices in cups, plastic cups and styrofoam that we buy from the store. These chemicals are in these products, and they are designed to turn you the opposite of what your natural sex is. So we have to be careful. We have to be mindful, and we have to watch how our children eat and what they eat. And if you notice that your child is eating a lot of processed foods, most of the time, the majority of the food your child is eating is processed, then that's another thing that you have to stop doing, because your child needs to eat things that are naturally grown in the earth, fruits and vegetables, you know, things that are naturally grown. Your child must partake of those things in their diet, and that should be the majority staple of their diet. The majority staple of your child's diet should be things that grow naturally in the earth. And when you get them, Try to get, to the best of your ability, try to get what's organic. Now, they'll put a cloud up over organic stuff because they don't want you to get it. But believe me, try to get what is naturally organic. And even if you get it organic, it does still mean that you have to clean it. So what's that? Apple cider vinegar and baking soda. Let it sit in there for about 15 minutes to a half hour. Rinse it off, put it in the refrigerator or put it in your bowl and eat it. You have to be careful because a lot of the fruits, they're coated with a wax. The wax is not just a carcinogen causing cancer, but that wax also has lactates and other ingredients in it, atrazine and a lot of other things in it that can also cause you or your children to have homosexual tendencies. Now, you know you're not homosexual. You're not geared to any type of perversion. You're not about messing with you know that you're not about messing with children. You know this about yourself, but yet something flashes across your mind. One day you just happen to be sitting there talking about, oh, I think I'm, no, and it crosses your mind, you let it go out. Let me tell you something. That was that demon trying to take hold of you, trying to alter you. And demons can enter into you by the things you put in your bodies. Yes, I'm telling you, demons can enter into you by different things that you would intake into your body. Certain creams, certain smokes, inhaling certain things, snorting certain things, eating certain things can open your body up for demons to possess you and take hold of you. Some of us are so full of demons, that these conversations like this agitates us. And it's not agitating you as a person, it's agitating those demons that exist inside of you. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful how you think. I would suggest that we all do a fast. At least once every 3 months. At least once every 3 months. For 3 days at a minimum. Fast. And separate yourself to the best of your ability of these wicked desires, these wicked inclinations, and the things that affect us on the negative. Fast. Promiscuity is in a rampant all-time high right now. Sexual diseases are also at a rampant all-time high because promiscuity is so high. And a lot of our children have been infected with these diseases because promiscuity is so high. We have to be mindful, family, and don't give the benefit of the doubt to anyone. You got to be real careful where you send your children, whose home you allow them to stay at. You got to be super, super careful. Super careful. This one man, his wife, his ex-wife, had a new husband. And the new husband was sexually assaulting his daughter. He killed the man, put the man out of his misery. And the police came and locked him up, and he's been in jail. He's going to do jail for, I think it's 47 years they gave him. But the whole thing is, had the mother been mindful, and had she been watching, chances are she could have allowed that wicked man to leave her home or been out of that wicked relationship with that guy that she thought was a straight up guy, but he was a predator. You might want to do that too, do a predator check on the person that you're bringing into your life. You know, because I'm just trying to awaken our minds to reality that this world we're living in hell. That's where we are. And almost anything and anybody is susceptible to be the predator in your life. So you have to treat it like that. Be careful. Be super, super careful because they're out here. I remember having a talk, and I'm going to cut this short real soon. I remember having a talk with a young guy. I mean, this guy must have been about 8 years old, 9 years old. And he kept telling me about the dangers of little boys liking little boys. He said, that ain't supposed to. Now, that's a true story, so I ain't making this up. He said, this is a true, this ain't supposed to be, right? I said, no, little boys ain't supposed to be intimate with little boys. But, you know, the conversation was a lot deeper. But I don't want to talk too much because I know I have ears hear that the parents might not want their children to hear certain things, so I have to talk a certain way. But to just use your imagination to understand where this conversation was headed to. I guess might have been about 3 or 4 years later, come to find out, this little guy was faking all this time. He was already one of those people that he was telling me that they wasn't supposed to be. He was already faking all this time of knowing that little boy. He had me fooled, making me think. I guess that was a diversion in it. So I would trust him, you know, or think that something ain't going on in his life, but in reality, it was. And he was exposed. He was eventually exposed. But we got to be careful. Now, sometimes children grow out of that behavior when they're young. When they're little, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 even, sometimes they grow out of that behavior. They realize their mistakes and be like, oh man, that was wicked. How could I do something like that? And they grow up and they be strong young men and young women. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't. I've had stories told to me about young girls who was young, when in their youth, flirting with this same type of thing with other girls. Not just with other boys, I mean, not just with boys, but with girls in their youth, being real close and real intimate in a manner in which, in a way that they weren't supposed to be. Sometimes they never drop that off. Sometimes it never leaves them, and they grow up being bisexual. But sometimes they grow out of it because they realize it was just a childhood thing. It was just a little thing, you know, ain't no big deal. I mean, that's in the past. I don't move like that, no. But a lot of them grow up and they're changed forever. And they grow up with a girlfriend. Some of them grow up hating men, but a lot of them grow up with a girlfriend. I've seen a thing recently where there are more lesbians that are pregnant today than there had ever been. I mean, they butchers, but yet they're carrying babies now. You know, it's something. It's amazing how things happen. Chief, Shabbat Shalom. It's just amazing how these things happen. And we have to be careful. We have to keep our minds open. We have to stay vigilant in trying to be certain that our children are not the victims and are not the predators in these situations. So I've just mentioned a few things, and I'm sure because of the amount of people we have here in the room, I'm sure that you guys know a whole lot more things and a whole lot of other situations that I haven't mentioned that hasn't been mentioned. A lot more different opportunities where these things could take place and how some of the things that we can do to prevent these things from taking place. All I'm saying is be careful and take hold of your children. Watch your children, watch your children, watch your children. Because these predators are alive and well, and they come into places that you never even thought they would ever come. So be careful. May the Most High be with you all. May the Most High strengthen you all. And I pray that something that I said helps you in the process of your life of raising your children and having your children around other children or other adults. I know you can't watch them 100% of the time, but if you do your best, then that's all you can do. The Most High has to do the rest. May the Most High be with you. Shabbat Shalom. Toda Rabbah. All right, Ima. Let's move forward.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm gonna play a song and then we'll move into our
119 and 33 says,
Teach me, O Yahuwah, the way of your steps,
and I shall guard it unto the end. I must hear it, I must do what you say, it's your will that I seek, let your Torah abide in me. I must hear and obey, I must do what you will that I see. Let your Torah abide in me. This is my prayer. This is my prayer. This is my prayer. Oh, Yahuwah. Rain on us. Breathe through us. Live in us. Oh, Yahuwah. Rain on us. Breathe through us. Live in us. Oh, Yahuwah. I will go where you say go. I will move where you say move. It's your will that I see. Let your Torah abide in me. I will go where you say go. I will move when you say move. It's your will that I see. Let your Torah abide in me. Rain on us. Breathe through us. Live in us. Oh, Yahuwah. Oh, rain on us. Breathe through us. I want you to live. Oh, Yahuwah. Let us trust and obey the word of the Most High God. Shema Yisrael. Let us hear and obey. I want you to hear and obey. Shema We hear and obey your word. Rain on us. Breathe through us. Live in us. Oh, Yahuwah.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. The name of this song is Oh Yahuwah. I'll send it to you, sis. I'll send it to you. Yeah, it's a beautiful song. A very deep song. Get you really in the mode of understanding, the concept of who the Most High is to you. So actually, Sister Hadassah, one of the parents of our students, sent it to me months ago. And so ever since then, I've been playing it, and I try to play it, at least one Shabbat every week. If not, I try to play it the next week. So all praise to the Creator. All right, you guys, we are going to start with our thank you. So please post your thank yous in the chat. Once you do so, I will read them so that we can move forward. I know we have a couple of people that are going to come on and a couple of people that are going to come on and speak their thank yous. But please place your thank yous in the chat and I will read them. So we'll begin. Our first thank you is from Akoti Hadassah. That's who sent me the song, you guys. But it says, all praises be to the Most High, King of Kings, greatest of all, from everlasting to everlasting, provider, protector, judge, savior, kingsman, redeemer, the best father we could ever have and look up to. Hallelujah. Powerful, sis. Toda Rabbah, Toda Rabbah. Our next thank you is coming from our nephew, Carlin. And Carlin says, Shabbat Shalom, blessed with another 24 hours. Thank you, Most High, for the gift of another day, another sunrise, another breath, another opportunity. I don't take any of it for granted. All praise to the Creator. Hallelujah. To the Rabbi Carlin. And Sukari says, I'm grateful for all that assist and guide my way through life. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. To the Rabbi and Sukari for your thank yous. I know my sister wife is here, and I know she wanted to come on and give her thank yous. So while she does that, everybody, you still have time to write your thank yous in the chat, and then we move forward. Autumn, if you're ready, you can go ahead. I'll read. Miyu says, my thankful for the Most High is now exposing this pseudo-ancient languages by Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9. All right. Torah Rabah, Torah Rabah. I'm not sure. Autumn, can you hear me? No, she said she wanted to go. So give her the opportunity.
I'm sorry, I might be lagging.
Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom to all those near and far, listening now and listening later. Oh, my thanks. My thanks is I'm focused on one thing. The everlasting thanks I have to the Creator for a successful home birth of our son, Kizar Yaakov. I feel as though I have been through such a change within myself as a woman and transition physically and spiritually. A transition. I went through a transition with BK, of course, and that was one phase, and now I feel like this is phase 2. And I say that because this was a home birth with absolutely no medication. And that is a different, even though I do not condemn any type of birth, but that home birth with no medication is a definitely out of world experience. That's for sure. And I am so grateful that the Creator put the people in my life, the people who are there, in my path to carry me through. My sister wife, my husband, my mother, Anki Ter, the midwife who was absolutely amazing, and everyone else that called and texted and just to check up in our sisterhood chat, and other family and friends, that were just giving their support via call and text. Sorry.
I'll say
Oh,
your
my sister.
Okay.
My baby sister, my only blood sister was there. She has been there now for both births of my children, and I cannot thank her enough because she was one of the ones that was actually in the tub with me massaging it, as if you know what that helps with with birth. Princess Medaya did everything she was doing. The midwife did everything she was doing. My husband did what he was doing. Everyone was there, and at the end of the day, I felt so supported. I cannot be thankful enough for that, because women can do this by themselves, but we shouldn't have to. Let me say it again. Women can give birth by themselves, all alone, but we shouldn't have to. It's way, way more peaceful and way more emotionally grounded when you have those who you love around you and are able and willing to support your birth journey. Because there was a moment, and I think in every birth, no matter what kind of birth you have, home birth, hospital birth, whatever, there's always a moment in a woman where she feels as though she needs even more support, aka going somewhere, going to the hospital, going, these things. And I definitely had that moment. And it's so funny because I was just talking to Princess Madai about this yesterday. I said, "You remember that?" And she said, "Yep." And I said, "We're not going." And she said that out loud, even though I was in my way, everything I was doing. She said, "No, we're not going. It's too late. It's too late." And so she gave me that tough love that I needed. I was like, "Okay, I just have to push through." I had that moment. I had that moment. It's birth is truly one of the most raw events that a woman, well, any person really, a husband can witness, but also specifically a woman can go through. This is like the climax of her body. And I am so thankful that I have been brought to the other side. I'm thankful that the Most High has shown me that I can I can overcome that type of pain, and he has shown me more of my inner strength that I didn't realize was there, because there is a threshold. There is a threshold, and you have to decide when you have that moment in birth, natural or unnatural. Am I crossing this threshold, or am I going to go a different route? And with the perseverance that the Most High put in me and those around me, I decided to cross the threshold, and I'm so glad I did. I feel so much more empowered. I feel more just grounded. I really do. And I'm so thankful I got to experience it with those around me. I'm so thankful that our son is here and he is healthy. I'm so thankful that he is growing. I'm so thankful that his bigger brother BK is showing all the love and wanting to say, hold him, hold her. He really says hold it, but he says hold it. But he's really trying to say, can I hold the baby, right? So he comes in every morning, um, to say good morning, to say Boker Tov, and he's always willing to hold the baby. And I'm just so thankful for his presence as a big brother. And I cannot wait to see how they create their own bond, and how BK is going to help mold him, right? And as a younger brother from his own perspective. I'm so thankful I was able to deliver this our son, for my husband. I'm just so thankful to be here. I'm thankful that I have crossed the threshold in a healthy way, because there are women, as we know, that do not cross the threshold and do not make it for many various reasons, right? But I'm so thankful that the people that were in my birth room knew what they were doing, because I think one of the reasons, the main reason why we have our black women, hospital or non-hospital, that are dying from these births, is because of the lack of knowledge of those around them. So that's extremely important. So I'm so thankful that I have had this experience. I have gone through this, and I am so thankful to just seriously be here and give these praises. Total Rabah, to the Most High, for the gift of children, the gift of life, and the gift of bringing them forward. Torah. And I can go on and on, but I'm going to end it right there. That's it.
Hey, Toda Rabah, Sister Life. sharing her thank yous. Quite a few others have posted thank yous, and I wanted to go back
Can't
to.
hear you, Emma.
Okay, can I be heard by everyone? Because I'm
It's just
talking
real
loud.
low. I can hear you, but it's real, real low.
Yeah, I really think it's your English. I might be up high. But me, you said, "My thankful for the Most High is now exposing the pseudo ancient languages by Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9." He said, "For then will I turn to the people a pure language, but that they may call upon the name of the Lord." So, Torah and thank you for that. All right. Zakarina Ogle says, Shabbat Shalom. Thankful to the Most High for keeping me and my family safe and for waking me up to see a new day. Shabbat Shalom. Zakarina Ogle. And then Kitir says, the Most High is true to his word. I thank him for his faithfulness. I was able to witness for the first time new life entering naturally raw for the first time into this dimension. She says, congratulations to Prince Kez and his household for allowing me to be present for the awesome event. She was so supportive, so actively supportive. You know, whether it was being in a room, giving her words of encouragement, or even just taking BK and playing with him for a while, you know, preparing things, making teas, just everything. And Gitar came and represented who she is as our grandmother. So we're definitely thank you, Aim, for, you know, continuously showing up for us. So,
And she was a counselor.
she was.
She did some counsel work too. She's the truth. Aim Katir is the bomb.
And Sakari says, congratulations, dear hearts. Great may it be with you, the baby, the family, that which brought you through. So total Rabah, Sakari. And then it says, Joseph said, natural birth is such a blessing. Total Most High for allowing Autumn to deliver that beautiful baby boy peacefully. Love you. Hallelujah. Total Rabah, everybody. Sending out your prayers, showing your thank yous. And Kenya says, hallelujah. My sister said, screaming from the rooftops to the Most High for our son. Oh, praises. So grateful. Yeah, so I can go into my thank yous and just mimicking off of what my sister wife said. Definitely screaming from the rooftops, saying total the Most High for the life of our son, Kazar Yaakov, for his healthiness, his strong lungs, his willfulness. This young man came out. He didn't even cry first. He opened his eyes and looked at everybody. Then he started crying. Um, and that it reminded me, you know, children they're aware. They're very aware. People, you know, I don't know what people really think, but their spirits are already aware of what's happening. So when they get into that physical form, the spirit reawakens in that form and allows them to see things that they need to see before they speak. And it reminded me when that happened of when I had my very first child. The first thing she did was open, not both eyes, she opened one eye and looked around the room at everybody in it. And then she started to wail. And there's something significant about that, you know. And I equate it to, um, and I'm going somewhere with this, but when my mother passed, the last thing she did, and they told us that she was brain dead, but the last thing my mother did was open one eye and look around at everybody's face in that room before she expired. And to me, you know, that's the spirit memorizing, recognizing who's there for them in the beginning and the end. And so, you know, I just, you know, that's what it came to me. when that happens. And I'm just thankful to be able to experience those spirits, because they come in with a mission, and they want to know who's there, who can they count on. And it's very important that the village is there, the village shows up. And so for him, the village showed up, and I'm grateful. Like my sister wife said, it was a phenomenal birthing experience. Our midwife was amazing. There were fears from different reasons for the previous, and we just all had to pull together and overcome those thoughts that took place prior, and focus on what was now, what the Creator had given us for this time. And He gave us a blessing of such a peaceful, calm midwife who wasn't pushy, who was very patient with us as the family, who was very patient with my sister wife, and allowed us to, go with the process. And she was very trusting, and it was very good to have that type of dynamic there. And me being my sister wife's doula, to be able to have a midwife that I knew was capable, and that her and I were able to talk about the processes and move together to make sure that we were making the best decisions for my sister wife and our baby to come. I'm grateful to the Most High for the Shabbat day, for all He has done. Toda to the Creator, Toda Creator for our Ish, Toda Creator for our parents, my parents, the legacies, our families. I mean, so much to be grateful for in this whole week. I'm grateful that I had a birthday, and 7 days after my birthday, and I said it on a post that this year was going to be phenomenal, and so many different things have happened already. But I just want to acknowledge that, when the baby came out, I was able to catch the baby and pull him out, and even unwrap the umbilical cord with the guidance of the midwife. And that was the first time in my 49 years catching a baby in the water birth. And so I'm grateful for that experience. And, Most High has His miraculous ways of making sure that we're connected. And I'm grateful that, I'm just super grateful that, baby boy is healthy. He's already greedy 3 days, showing us that he is ready to take on whatever we got for him. So prayerfully, as my sister wife said, we'll continue to grow with him, and watch BK become, a phenomenal big brother. He's already doing the most, and just being loving with him, and making sure that he's gentle but loud still, letting him know that he's here. But yeah, thankful for, like she said, everyone who was there. Her mom, her sister, and Keter, husband, of course. All those different support mechanisms played a big role in this beautiful process. Also grateful that the Most High allowed me to attend the wake for Leland Harris, who weeks ago I talked about as a young man who was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, cancer of the bones, and 1 year ago, July of 2025, and he passed away July of 2026. And we were able to grant or help to be able to grant some wishes that he had. And so I'm thankful that the Most High allowed us as a family to assist in that part of his life, giving him something to really smile and be grateful for. And, he passed away exactly 7 days after that happened. And yesterday they had his wake, and I'm super humbled that the Most High allowed me to attend his funerals today. So of course I won't be there, but I was able to attend his wake with another sister who actually tagged me to be introduced to this family. And she's an Israelite sister, and we were able to attend together and just, be present and give thanks for the Most High pulling different people together, so many times we hear the, oh, look out for our own people, or look out for those who only call on the Christian. And there's so many ways and reasons why the Most High actually worked and worked with them. But they were
Can't hear you.
grateful. They
All
were
right.
grateful. Can anybody else hear me?
Yeah,
They
you're
were
back now.
okay. They were very grateful, and it was just an honor to be there. The whole family came and spoke to us and just told us how grateful they were for us being able to help put a smile on Leland's face, and just, give something to the family. So one of the messages that Leland's father had passed on was that when Leland was going through the different cancer trials, he kept saying, if this doesn't work for me, I hope that it works for another young person. And I think, that thought process, the fact that even if it didn't work for him, he wanted it to work for someone else. And he was willing to go through the trial, because that's what it is. It's a trial, it's an experiment to see if it worked, and to hopefully, help to make it work for someone else. So, just that phenomenal being that he was, and the world got to know his name in such a short period of time, to see his face. So, I'll be forever humbled and forever grateful that the Creator allowed us to cross paths with this young man and his family and so many others. And I look at it also as a sign that the Most High is allowing us as his people, who carry his name, who stand guard for who he is, to be seen in a manner of righteousness, to be seen in a manner of kindness and love, because the images that they have of us that we see, people mimic, are people who are angry and screaming at others to be in this way. And that's not, that's not how we are. We're loving, we're kind, we lend a hand. And so I'm grateful that the Most High is allowing people to see us in that realm, and for us to actually exemplify and do his work. So, all praises to the Creator for his blessing, his word to be spread, and continuous prayers to Leland's family and all the youth. There was so many youth out there last night to come say, their final physical goodbyes to Leland, and that was a blessing to be able to see so many youth, pay homage to their friend. But yeah, super grateful, super grateful. Like I said, a lot of different things happened this week. We had our open house for our school for the new coming year, starting August 31st, our first day of school, and that was successful. We've already gained a few new students, so the Most High is allowing us to do his work in different paths, different journeys in this work. And so prayerfully, the Creator continues to be with our hands, our minds, our hearts, our bodies, keep us strong and healthy. And looking forward to the week next week, when we, other accomplishments to be made, and bringing our son into the covenant and moving our daughter into her college dorm. Life is something when you think about it, the different changes and the growths and the different spaces we're in this life, bringing in a newborn, and then having a couple of our children going off to college in the same year. That's a blessing. So all praises to the Creator for his blessings, his grace, his mercy, and may we all continue to delight in his day. And Kimya says, the fact that our child came without all that medication tells me to look forward to his greatness. He will be very much guarded. All praises to the Most High. Hallelujah. All praises to the Most High. Toda Rabbah and Kimya. All right, say who. I'm going to go on mute. Abba.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. I am also grateful for the birth of another son. I got a lot of children, that makes number 18. So when I was younger, my thing was I wanted to have, I think it was 12 sons or 14 sons. 14 children, but 12 sons. And I ended up having 14 girls. And now 4 boys. So now my last son, BK, when he was young, like maybe around 8 months, 9 months, the Creator gave me a vision. I told my wife, and I told everybody else that I knew. So I'm gonna tell y'all now, so it's on record. 18 is wild. No, 18 is a man that's disciplined and in control of himself and doing what he decides he wants to do and fulfilling it. That's what 18 is. And that vision was that when BK was almost 2 years old, then my wife would be pregnant with the next child. And then the next child will be a boy. And then the next child after that boy will be a girl. That's what the Creator gave me in a vision in my dream. When I woke up, that's when I had it, and that's when it hit. And I got up and I told my wife. Now, for a lot of you, you might say, well, that ain't nothing. I mean, what chances of that is very slim. I mean, very easy. You know, that's a normal process. But not for me. Because I got how many girls? 14 girls. I've never had 2 boys be born back to back, ever. I've never had 2 boys be born back to back, ever. And this was the first time that the Creator's blessed me. Not that the girls wasn't a blessing, not that the order of my children wasn't a blessing. All that was a blessing. But this is the first time that the Most High had allowed me to bring forth life at His command. I ain't gonna say the first time at His command, but He told me what was going to happen prophetically, and it happened just like He said. And now we're waiting for the next few years. I don't know when, but we're waiting for the next few years to make sure that that next child is a female child, a girl. It gave me the 2 boys, which was an impossible thing for me. Everybody sitting around betting me it's a girl, it's a girl, it's a girl. Everybody, y'all know who y'all are. All, even my wife sitting around, it's a girl, it's a girl. Not that wife next to me, right there on the side, Princess Madai. It's a girl, it's a girl, it's a girl. I said, no, the Creator said it's a boy, it's a boy. And we left it on that. Everybody we talked to, it's a girl, it's a girl, it's a girl. All my children, it's a girl, everybody. My mother betted me that I was wrong. And the bet was that if I'm right, she got to come down here to Georgia and stay down here in Georgia with us for a week. She never been here. The problem my mother is, my mother's afraid to travel. And she said if it's a girl, then whatever the bet, I don't even know what that, because I ain't even paid no attention to that if it was a girl. But my side of the bet was that if it was a boy, you got to come down here and stay for a week. So I got to go pick her up so she can come down here and stay, because as the Creator said, I was right, it's a boy. And thank the Creator for his life. Thank the Most High for his life. I thank the Most High for all of you, because without you, there would be no us. There would be no reason for us to do what it is that we're doing. But because the Most High saw fit for you to be here today, we are here today, and we are being supported in doing what it is that we have to do. And we're grateful for that as well. As I walked through my week, I thought on some things. And constantly, I think about the passing of my late wife, Maya. And I'm saying this because it was something that came to me this week that I needed to share with you all. And I don't know why I got to share it, but for some reason, I have to share it. And what it was that during the time that she was sick, I never felt like she was going to pass away. It's like if I didn't believe that it could happen. It just, I just didn't think it was going to take place. I thought she was going to survive. I thought she was going to make it through. I just kept seeing her in her condition, but I kept envisioning her getting healed and getting better, and we get back to old business and do what we've been doing. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. She ended up passing. And may the Most High bless her memory and bless her essence wherever He has her and whatever assignment He has for her. So I guess this message is for a lot of you as you living in this life today. Those people that you love, that you hold dear to you, your family members, your husband, your wife, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to express that love through your lifestyle, through your actions, through your teachings, and whatever you do for them and with them in your life, because you never know when that time is going to come that your loved one will be taken away from you and you will feel their absence. And if there's anyone out here in the audience that's sick, that's listening, I got a message the other day about a couple of brothers that's sick. And I reached out to the individuals, but I haven't gotten any answers, no responses. Nobody's called me back, and they didn't answer the phone at that time. Hopefully they will. And if they will, it is my desire to go sit with them, talk with them, and spend some time with them. Because we don't think about these things while everything is hunky-dory and we all just living our lives and pretty much doing what we want to do during that time, We don't think about the devastation of the transition that takes place that separate us from those that we knew or know or love or care for. So, I think that this message is not just for me, which I know it is, but I think it's for somebody out here in the audience that has a loved one that is sick and going through it. And going through it with someone in your life. The Most High will move us to that next dispensation of time. And I know that it's going to hurt. It's the natural process. It has to take place so that other things on the other side of the realm can exist and move forward. But at the same time, it hurts. It brings us pain. And I know that I don't think that there's any one of us who have not lost someone that we care deeply for. Whether it's a mother, a father, sister, brother, or cousin, or just a friend. But we have to acknowledge that the Most High is King and He doesn't make mistakes. And no matter what the age, like the young brother Liam, no matter what the age, the Most High has a plan for everything that He does. And we just have to trust in the Most High's. Sick or suffering or about to pass or on your last leg or your last breath, it's all right. Rest and know that the Most High doesn't make mistakes, that He will comfort you and provide for you and take care of you. You may not recover, or they may not recover in this life, but the Most High is with them. He has a work, an assignment, something for them in the next existence, and that's why He's calling them back, because it's their time to get started on their next journey. So may the Most High be with you all, strengthen you all, and teach you all. But I'm very grateful for the life that the Most High has me living, with the good times and the sad times and the bad times. I'm very grateful and very appreciative, and I just want the King to know that I'm grateful. And I couldn't tell you how happy I am because of the new birth. of my son, Kizar Yacob. Very happy. May the Most High be praised. To the Rabbah.
Be praised. All praises. Yes. He's super happy, guys. Super happy, y'all. And thankful. So, but hey, it's something to be happy about. Life and having another son, especially for men, is so important. That lineage, that legacy to carry on. So we are grateful. So we're going to move along and, just talk about some different well, I wanted to talk about health. It's my portion to kind of like present the health and current information. And so I was led to really speak about what I was saying was happening, or what happened with Leland with osteosarcoma, and just understanding the kind of cancer it was and who it affects, and doing that research so that, we could be aware. Because when I spoke with his mom, Leland was a very healthy child, like all his life. No sicknesses, no ideas of any sicknesses appearing. So it made me really question, or like curious about this cancer, and the fact that he got it in 1 year and was, and it metastasized, as they say, spread in a year, and he passed from it. And so yes, I just wanted to share that information. And so the cancer that Leland had is called osteosarcoma. Osteo is the medical terminology for bone. And so osteosarcoma is the most common type of primary bone cancer, originating from cells that form new bone tissue. It most frequently affects teenagers and young adults during rapid growth spurts, typically developing in the long bones near the knee or shoulder. And so, of course, that's from the Mayo Clinic. And of course, that sparked my curiosity more, because I have a young son. He's 15 and he's growing rapidly. He is now, I believe, almost 6'4". He's tall. And in my head, of course, I'm not in my heart like, oh, my son is going to develop this cancer. But I'm still curious now, because this is something that his mom had no signs of, outside of, when children complain when they're growing, when their bones hurt, we all say, oh, that's just growing pains. That's something that's said to children all the time. And I know I've said it. And my son has come to me and be like, oh, my leg is hurting today, or I'm getting these headaches. And, so we are planning to, go and do some physicals to make sure he's, healthy and there's nothing else happening. But it did really make me think, like it said, teenagers and young adults during their growth spurts. And that's important for us to pay attention. So when our children are saying, hey, I'm having these pains, we can't just dismiss it and say, oh, okay, you'll be all right. It's just a growth spurt. You're just going through growing pains. It happens to everybody. And it could be that rare occasion that it could be something else. It may not be osteosarcoma, but it could be something else that's affecting them. And so I definitely, want us to take our children serious when they are coming to us and saying, hey, I'm having some issues. I'm feeling some ways. I'm feeling these different things going on in my body that weren't going on before. And just it's precautionary. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking your child and saying, hey, you know what, Dr. So-and-so, whoever, this is what my son or daughter is complaining about. Can you check for me? I'm not saying go get a biopsy. I'm not, biopsies to me are very dangerous. They allow, if there is anything in the body, to spread rapidly. But I am saying, go get it checked out. But it also says that bone or joint pain that may worsen at night or with activity. So these are some of the key things to look for too, to ask your child, like, well, how often does it occur? When does it occur? What does it feel like? Like, we have to be engaging. So when our children are coming to us saying some things, like, we might be busy and be like, okay, I got you, and don't pay attention. And then they don't speak of it anymore because they feel dismissed. So we have to be engaging, because sometimes they don't know how to describe it. They may just feel like, hey, I was playing basketball and I hurt my knee, and think it's common, because it is common, right? But it can be more than that. Like I said, this is not to scare anyone or to put fear, because I don't live in that life, but it is to make you aware that this one common cancer can be ignored, because we can relate it to, hey, it's just something that happened to you. You'll feel better in a couple of days. Soak your leg or soak your knee, or put some tiger balm on it or massage it. It also states swelling or noticeable lump near the affected bone. So of course, when they come talk to you about it, inspect the area. If there's a lump there, feel it, see what it feels like. If you're not comfortable with feeling, ask someone else to do it. But definitely seek out what's going on with them. Limping or reduced movement in a limb. So if you notice that, they're having a hard time walking for some reasons, and they're not sure either. They just woke up and that's what it was feeling like. These are concerns to have, just to be sure and clear, and check on the babies, check on your children. It also says unexplained bone fractures occurring from minor stress or no clear cause. So that's when it says unexplained bone fractures, that means the bones are weak, and the child could just there are actual not diseases, but cases where children are born with very weak bones, where they could fracture a bone just by hitting the wall, not even hitting it hard. So, those are things we have to pay attention to. I've watched different stories about this. And so, just the awareness, it's caused me to really go deeper into understanding different forms of cancer, and paying attention, because I've always been one of those people, like, I hear people having things, but it's never touched me close to home to the degree that it has these last couple of years, of people who I know personally have died from cancer. Some have lived long time with it, some very short periods with it. And so it's caused me to look further into it, because of course, we can always say, oh, it's tied to the food they're eating. And some people are vegan, some people aren't. So it's not always directly that. We can't always just say, oh, it's because of your diet. We really have to look deeper into what's going on with that person's body. And it affects all of us differently, but there's some key things that we all can be affected identically with. And those are the things that we have to pay attention to, the consistency of what others are saying that they are directly affected by. When I looked up the research of how many young people have passed from osteosarcoma, of course they said there's stages where you can definitely heal from it, but once it spreads, like, to your lungs, they're saying it's a 20% chance of surviving from that. And then it's a 50 to 60% chance to survive osteosarcoma without it spreading at all. So, we know that anything is possible. The Creator has all type of ways to heal us. And but it's our job to really pay attention to what's going on. It also says the causes and risk factors of osteosarcoma. Cellular DNA changes that cause bone cells to grow and multiply uncontrollably. So when our children are growing, and like I said, they're having these pains, we don't know what's going on. If they're having uncontrollable multiplying of growth spurts of their bones and the cells growing, we don't know. But if it's consistent, where they're saying consistently, I'm in pain, I'm having problems, then we definitely need to pay attention to that. It also says rapid growth bone periods. explaining its higher frequency during adolescent growth spurts, which we spoke of earlier. It says rare inherited genetic syndromes such as liphromy or hereditary retinoblastoma. Retinal is dealing with the blood or the veins. And that just means like growth, rapid growth of those things. So, and that could be hereditary. So studying the the genes of where you come from, trying to make sure, looking at your history. A lot of times we don't look at that. I know when we are in the female doctor's office, the gynecologist or the obstetrician, when the women come in there, that's a question we ask automatically. And there's certain tests that can be done, to see if, when it's hereditary, to see if it's in your gene. I don't know how that's done in the male, when men go to their doctors, if that's a question asked, if they test for that. But it's important to know your hereditary, to know your family lines on both sides. A lot of people are like, oh, it only happens on my mother's side, but it could be rare on the father's side. So ask the questions. You never know. And then it says prior radiation therapy for other childhood or adult cancers. It said this is another risk factor that can bring out the osteosarcoma is prior radiation therapy for other childhood or adult cancers. So a child can have a cancer or an adult can have a cancer of some other sort, have radiation, and it could be a factor in your body now, osteosarcoma becoming a cancer in your body. And there's so many different conversations about radiation. There are people who are for it, there are people who are against it. I remember when my father, quite a few years ago, he had some kidney failure, and the first thing they wanted to do was give him radiation for his kidney failure, and he refused immediately. He refused the biopsy, and then he refused radiation because he said, I don't want anything going into my body. If the Most High is taking me out for this, that's what I don't want, anything foreign. So he was like, give me the natural things, and that's what we did. We started giving him natural remedies and acupuncture and other things. And he was in the hospital. We were still giving it to him. And when they did another check, his kidneys were back to its normal state. And because he believed in that, he didn't want them to come and alter his kidney function and then take a biopsy and spread whatever they assumed was going on with him. So we have to educate ourselves on the processes too. It's I'm a believer that it's good to have a checkout, to be checked out, but understand when you're being checked out, when you're being examined, being aware of what it means to be biopsied or x-rayed and then given radiation and what those side effects are to your body. It says diagnosis and treatment. Diagnosis involves initial x-rays, following with MRIs, CT scans, and they say a definitive tissue biopsy. And we know, people opt to do it, and I'm not here to tell you what not to do or to do, but just understand the risk factors of everything you do. It says standard treatment usually combines multi-agent chemotherapy with limb salvage surgery to remove the tumor while preserving physical function. And so, just knowing all these things, but that's what the standard treatment is for that. But there's other treatments that can be done for bone weakness, bone breakage, osteosarcoma caught in early stages. We just have to be aware, and part of us as parents, because it's saying this is a adolescent, teenage, young adult disease, to pay attention to when our children are having aches and pains and complaining, and not just dismissing them because they're a child and we were like, oh, you don't know what you're feeling or talking about. Yeah, they did. They wanted to give him radiation for kidney failure. I don't understand it either, but as a family, we discussed it and we knew what we weren't going to do, and we were going to support whatever my father decided to do. But that's pretty much what I wanted to bring forward, and just bring awareness to, and may the Most High be be praised. And I pray that the information is accepted, and for those who may hear today or tomorrow, whenever, that we do listen to our children and make sure that we observe, research, and just honor the things that they're saying, even if it can't be something. You just never know. So say
May the Most High be praised, Total Rabbah. All right, family, we're going to do the commandments next. Now, we got a very interesting lesson today. Very interesting class. I don't know how long class is going to last. The lesson is pretty long, pretty intense. I got a lot of things I want to cover. But the name of the class today is, Did the People of the Bible Exist? Has there been archaeological evidence verifying the Bible? Now, there are several different classes on this one topic that's going to take place in concession. This is just the first class, but there's several different ones that we want to cover to verify or dispute whether the Bible existed, or whether the people in the Bible existed, and has there been any archaeological findings, meaning physical evidence to verify the existence of the Bible and the people in the Bible. So we're going to cover that a lot today in the class. So while you're getting ready for the class, you should also be posting your commandments, because that's the next portion for us to do, the commandments. All right? All right, Ima, you ready?
And I'm ready. The commandment, I know we have one commandment that was given us today by Kimya, and her law can be found in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8. Salakly for the noise, everyone. All right, and it says, and the Most High, He it is that doth go before thee. He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. And Kimya's explanation is, sovereigns is our refuge. The Most High sovereign is our refuge and strength. The messengers of the Most High encamps around us. Most High guards the course of the just and protects the way of the faithful. Selah. Selah. Toda Rabbah, and Kimya for your law. I don't see any other laws. Let me
No one else did any commandments, huh? All right. And Sister Hadassah put up something, but I don't think that was a commandment.
Oh no, it was part of the group.
All right. What about you, Ima? You have a commandment today?
I do not. I can recite one that I just did read that I thought was prevalent. It's
I'm
in the
sorry,
book
I can't hear you.
I can recite what I just did read, and I feel like it is prevalent. It's in the book of Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 31, verse 12. And it says, gather the people together, men and women and children, and thy stranger that is within thy gates, that they may hear and that they may learn and fear the Most High your power, and observe to do all the words of this law. And I believe, of course, it's prevalent on the fact that, of course, we're here gathering our people together on this land, but we also are gathering, and I'm calling them strangers, but they're not strangers by way of how we know them, but they're strangers to the way of this life. So we had family with us this last week and a half of, these last couple of weeks actually, prior to the birth and, after the birth. And we have some rules and regulations on the land, and we had to go in and have a really deep discussion on how we enforce our rules to those who do not walk this path. And and then, we had to really think about what the message is that we're getting across to the people. And so when I read that law, it made me think about that, right? And how for the women we were talking about when they come into this land, especially if they're going to be here for periods of time and walking amongst the land and being in the presence of us, then they ought to wear, uh, long skirts, of course, and cover their, bodies where there's no exposure of nudity or nakedness, and just modesty in the whole realm of what it is that we represent here on our land. It's not a law, in the Torah that a woman must wear a skirt. However, it is a rule on our land of what we desire for the modesty of our people, and who we represent. And so it was one of the ways that we spoke to one of our sisters about it was we likened it to if you go over to Dubai or any Eastern country that when you come into their land as a woman and even as too, there's certain ways that you have to dress. They don't allow you to come over there in major skirts and mini skirts. You have to cover yourself. And it's not because they're afraid of what you have to do, but it's their culture, right? It's their mannerisms. And they're not trying to convert you to Islam or whatever it is that they may be way of life over there. But what they're doing is they are protecting the culture of their people. It's already we're getting exposed by all these different things, but if you come into their presence, then they want you to conform to the modesty, not conform to their way of life. And so, once that was, how do you say, displayed or explained in that manner, it was understood in that way of, okay, it's not, y'all not trying to make me a Hebrew, but more of just respecting the culture that is of our land. And so I think that's important, and I just relate that to that law. It just, resonated with me. So that's it.
Very interesting topic. Very interesting topic. With a lot of females today, because I say females because that's the one that we've been having the issues with. The males, we don't usually have an issue with conforming to the rules and regulations unless it's dealing with drugs and drinking and promiscuity. But usually with the females is usually the dress code. A lot of females feel like you're trying to control them when you ask them to put on a skirt or a dress to be in the community. And that's not what it is at all. In those other countries that my wife mentioned, if you're in these countries and you offend their rules and their policies, you get the punishment for that. You go to jail. Like in one country, these people went and visited, European people, and there was some black people there too. And I don't know which country this was. I forget what country this was. I wish I remembered because it was a very good place to visit. In this country, if you make fun of somebody's nationality because he's black, you start making monkey signs, they throw you in jail. Now, I don't know what the religion was of this country, but in this country, you couldn't make fun of somebody else's nationality or the color of their skin. And if you did, the authorities got wind of it, they would arrest you and lock you up. And this white girl was a visitor from another country. And this black guy was, I don't know if he was a visitor too, but he was in that country. And he did something that she didn't like. And she started going, hoo, 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 making monkey signs. And they have her on video on tape. And the police locked her up. and then she had an extradition here and trying to get out of the country to refuse the punishment of being in that country. Now, what am I saying? What I'm ultimately saying is, when you enter into someone's domain, there are rules and procedures that you have to follow while in that domain. It not necessarily the rules that you will follow if you was not in their domain. If you was out in the streets running about doing what you do, then you can do what you do. But when you enter into someone's home, someone's domain, and those people are essentially responsible for you, but you're also responsible for adhering to the rules and regulations of that community or those people's property. And I don't understand why it would be such a hard problem for a woman to put on a dress or a skirt. Why would that be such an, I just don't understand why it would be such an issue. But then when I think about the people that have the issue, these few generations coming up, like I mentioned last week or the week before, these generations, these last few, I would say the last 3 or 4 generations of individuals, the young folk, seem to be in a different mindset, in a different world, you know, and you can't have them conform to anything respectful and honorable unless they feel like they're going to win out of that situation. If it goes against their comfortability or their comfortable level or their likings even, many of them will rebel against what it is that you're trying to ask them to do. And, you know, I don't think it's necessary, but we get that a lot. All right? So when you travel into a man's house, that man is still the king of his house. Just because you come in don't mean that his kingship stops. And as a king of any house, his rules and regulations for his home should extend to you once you come under his roof. And I don't know why it's such a hard thing for us to believe, but in ancient cultures, we didn't have a problem obeying people's rules and regulations when we went into their house. How do you think Abraham got to survive in Egypt for that period of time? Because he had to follow the customs and the rules of the Egyptians. When he went into their home, that's how he did it. You know, that's just what's needed and necessary. Oftentimes, when you enter into somebody else's space. May the Most High be praised, and I pray that we all understand. Ima, did you grab that scripture? Mr. Otter, Shabbat Shalom, Mr. Otter. Shabbat Shalom. May the Most High be with you and the family. Are you ready, Ima? Can't hear you.
I had started. All right, in the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 15, and it says, good. And it says, and the Most High Creator took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it up and to keep it. And he says, his explanation is, remember to be industrious, labor. What? Remember to be industrious, labor to bring out the treasures that the Most High has you on earth. True meaning of economics.
All right. May the Most High be praised. Toda Rabbah. Mr. Otter, Shabbat Shalom. All right. So is that it for the commandments? Then let's get into our lesson. Toda Rabbah. It's that time. I think this is the earliest we got into a lesson in a long time. Long time. So this is the lesson that we're going to teach on today. Let me see if I can blow this up so that you all can see it a little better. Hold on a second. All right, how is it now? Can you all read it? Can you all read it?
Okay.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. All right? I'm sorry, Aim Katir had a commandment. Ima?
Uh, and Keter's commandments. I'm just gonna mute you, Abba, because I think you can't hear me because of that ear.
You think what?
I was thinking you can't hear me because of the air conditioner, so I was gonna mute. But Enkitir's law can be found in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 1 through 3. And it reads, "Now these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which the Creator, your power, commanded to teach you, that ye might do them in the land whither you go to possess it, that thou mightest fear the Most High thy power, to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command thee, thou and thy son and thy son's sons, all the days of thy life, and that thy days may be prolonged. Hear therefore, O Yisrael, and observe to do it, that it may be well with thee, and that ye may increase mightily, as the Most High our power of thy fathers hath promised thee in the land that floweth with milk and honey." And her explanation is, the Most High points us back to the covenant that he made with our forefathers. He promises to prolong our lives if we abide by his Torah. All right, and Carlin just posted his law in the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, chapter 18, verse 22. And it reads, "Thou shalt not be with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination." And then he just says that's his commandment. Okay, if you can send us an explanation, Carlin. I mean, it's very self-explanatory, but if you want to put something in your words, please.
The amazing thing about Carlin's commandment, Leviticus 18 and 22, you should not lie with male as with a woman, is an abomination. In the Hebrew, it actually says you should not lie with a zakar, a male zakar, anything masculine you should not lie with, as you would lie with a nikewa, anything feminine. That's what it actually says. You should not lie with anything masculine as you would with something feminine. So that meaning is deep. It's real specific as to what it's saying. And if you hear what it's saying, you would know that homosexuality by way of men is strictly forbidden in the Torah. So now you have a lot of these churches and organizations that run and operate, and they're full of homosexuality. And usually those types of people don't want to adhere to the law, so they usually deal with the New Testament, avoiding the law altogether. So that was a very good commandment, Neff, but you got to give us what your explanation of that law is when you get an opportunity. May the Most High be praised. Toda Rabbah. All right? So I think that might be it for the commandment side of things. I didn't see anything new pop. So we're going to get back to our lesson for the day. All right. Well, that ain't going to work, is it? Okay, there you go. That's how we're going to do this. All right. Carlin. Hey. Hey, Mom.
Carlin's explanation is biblical verse from the Old Testament Holiness Code. It addresses ancient Israelite ritual and moral purity laws regarding sexual behavior.
All right. May the Most High be praised. Total Rabbah. Go ahead, Colin. We see you. We see you, Colin. Spill them jewels. All right. So let's get started. Did you all give any likes yet? Anybody like the page yet? Anybody share the page, the video, so we can get it out to other people? Like, share, and if you're new to the page, you can also subscribe, and Creator willing, that'll be a way for others to hear what it is, the information that you'll be gathering today. It'd be another way for them to hear these things. So anyone else? Like, share, and subscribe to the platform, and let's get moving. Let's get moving. Now, our topic today is, did the people of the Bible exist? Has there been archaeological evidence of the existence of the people of the Bible or of the Bible? And just for the record, let me let you know, there is a plethora of information. Also for the record, let me let you know this. What we're going to be doing is, we're going to be doing a series of these classes. So we're going to have a few classes covering this same topic, right? We're going to have a few covering this same topic for the next few weeks. And looking through my notes, I found the one of Saul and the Amarna tablets. Amarna tablets. Now we're going to read a little bit about this, and we're going to get some knowledge on this, and it all ties into biblical history. Oftentimes you meet people that say, prove to me that the children of Israel was in captivity in Egypt. And if you're not a learned person, the first thing you say is, I can't prove that to you, or I got to go do the research, or I got to learn. You got to be up on top of your game so you understand what you're into. They have stories saying that Abraham, they have no archaeological or physical evidence of Abraham's existence, David's existence, Saul's existence, a lot of the major physical Moses' existence, a lot of the major physical powerful people who stood out in the Tanakh. There are a lot of people that say because they can't find anything to verify their existence, then the Bible ain't real, or they don't want to accept the Bible, or we're not going to adhere to this. But in reality, there's a lot of information, a plethora of information out here in the world for us to see, to view, and to understand. But today, you're going to get a whole lot of information. I pray that you got your notepads, your pencils, and your pens, that you're taking these notes, that you're writing this stuff down, that you're sharing the page, that you're liking and subscribing if you're not already subscribed, because we got a whole lot of stuff we're getting ready to get into. These things are for your education, to make you mentally strong, your education, to make you mentally strong, so that you'll know a lot more about your history, who you are, where you come from, and a whole lot of the history of the Bible. Because a lot of folk don't know historical events that took place in the Bible. They read over these things, but they never can connect the dots to tie this to this and this to this, because they don't study. Most of them don't study. But we're going to travel into those places today. Some of those places. May the Creator guide my mind, my spirit, my body, my language, and my speech as I approach unto you, his people. May the Most High be praised from everlasting to everlasting, for he is King. So to deal with a lot of those subjects that come up today in the world, dealing with rather the children of Israel even existed, or dealing with the simple stories of, rather, the Bible itself existed. These are some of the things that we're going to get into, that we're going to deal with. We're going to try to bring forth an understanding so that as you are out here in this world, you will know a whole lot more than what you knew prior to this Shabbat day being upon you. All right, at the heading of our lesson, it's called Saul and the Armorner Tablets. You can take that information down, put it in a Google search, and it'll pull up this exact information that we're about to read and get into. If they had it in a video form, I would probably play the video form. I do have videos that go along with this lesson, but this information is overwhelming. And if you're not familiar with some of the history, even in reading this information, you could be lost or distorted, because the information talks about things, places, and times that you may not be familiar with, and that they talk about it in a manner as if they expect you to already know. All right, let's move forward. In 1887, 380 clay tablets was discovered in Egypt. In 1887, 380 clay tablets was discovered in Egypt at a place called Tel al-Amarna, and have come to be known as the Armorner tablets. There are 380 of these tablets, and each one of these tablets tell a story. And some of these tablets tell stories written by Hebrews to the Egyptian king or Pharaoh. Some of these tablets tell stories that are written by other nations, even Pharaoh himself, that talks about some of the people or a historical event that took place around situations that are mentioned in the Bible. Therefore, verifying, at the bare minimum, the Bible's authentication. The bare minimum. So let's read on. These tablets was letters from foreign rulers, mainly of city-states, but also of the more powerful northern kingdoms of present-day Syria, Turkey, and Cyprus, as well as that what was once Babylonia and Assyria. And at one time, Babylonian and the Assyrians were the two greatest forces on the planet. Egypt, Babylon, and Syria were some of the three greatest forces on the planet. So all of these are major figures in history that's taken place, and they all have something to do with the Armorner tablets. They're all mentioned, or they actually wrote some of them and sent them to the king or Pharaoh in Egypt. They were written to the Egyptian Pharaoh on the day. This was Amenhotep the fourth. Amenhotep the fourth, who soon changed his name to the famous Akhenaten. Do anybody know anything about Akhenaten? Akhenaten is a very important thing for you to learn about Akhenaten. Okay. Tablets. What do I mean by tablets? Okay. Tablets mean little clay or big clay in things that were inscribed or written on or carved on. Now, these particular tablets was only like 3 inches by 2 inches, something like that, 3 by 2. So they were very small, but they found 380 of them, which they may have been one big piece and was smashed. There's no telling, all right? But there was 380 of them that they found, little tablets little clay things and then once the clay hardened, or while it was hardening, they engraved and they wrote on the clay tablets. And that's what these tablets are all about. But I wanted to first draw some attention on Amenhotep. Amenhotep IV, who soon changed his name to the famous Akhenaten. Now, Akhenaten Aten was the name of his deity. Amenhotep was his original name, they say, and he changed it once he had a conversion in lifestyle. Akhenaten was the very first pharaoh, supposedly on record, that went from worshiping multiple deities to worshiping one deity. He went from multiple deities to the worship of one deity. Okay, what is the brother saying? So they want us to believe they don't I don't know what you're saying, bro. I assume I know what you're saying. Are you trying to say that they want us to believe that there was no paper? No, they're not saying that. They're not saying that. What they're saying that the Amarna tablets was written on clay. We had paper called papyrus that we wrote things on. But at this particular time, these particular things was written on clay tablets. All right, so yes. So Akhenaten was oftentimes confused with Moshe. There was a lot of people that believed that Akhenaten may have even been Moshe. Now this is their beliefs, because some people teach that Moshe had actually risen to the position of a pharaoh and ruled Egypt. Some people believe that he was just a prince of Egypt and that he went to war with many different countries as a prince of Egypt. There's a lot of different teachings out there depending on where you're getting your knowledge from. But there are some people that teach that Akhenaten was actually Moshe, because Moshe was the one who initiated the one power rule of worshiping just one strength. He wasn't the originator of it. We had Shem, we had Noah, we had a lot of our forefathers who only worshiped one before Moshe was even thought about. But the simple fact that Moshe lived in Egypt in Pharaoh's house, a lot of people believe that Akhenaten was him. In my opinion, the time frame don't line up. But what you will also learn today is that in Egyptian chronological, in Egyptian chronological order, it depends on who's bringing you that information to put what in what time frame. So like the Egyptians, or Akhenaten's rule, Akhenaten IV, his rule may have been in the 13th dynasty, all right? But a lot of other people who did research on him might have him on the 8th dynasty or the 9th dynasty. It all depends on what researcher you're listening to, because their history is not bona fide in real time. They don't truly know. They look at some of the evidence and they determine what time frame they're going to say a certain event took place. But now when you have something like the Amarna tablets, you can actually use those Amarna tablets to know who was alive at what particular time frame, so that gives you a clearer reference as to when these things took place. So we have a lot of the kings of Babylon, a lot of the kings of Israel, and a lot of the pharaohs' names mentioned in the Amarna tablets. Therefore, those things relate to a lot of the information in the Bible, and that lets us know that these people was relevant or in existence during the time of the biblical history that we're mentioning. All right? So there you have your references. And I think we're going to get into a little bit of that on this document. Under the old chronology, these tablets contain little to no interest to Bible scholars. If the time frame, if they find something that say Amenhotep reigned 2,000 years, or let's say 800 or 1,000, 2,000 years or 800 years prior to the Exodus, then these people that are mentioned here couldn't have possibly existed, so therefore they would say that there is no verification for the existence of the people of the Bible, because these people that we're talking about lived thousands of years prior to the Bible. And it's only because their chronological order is off. So you can go to another Egyptian scholar and they'll have one man existing in two different times, because no one is 100% correct in Egyptian scholarship. Okay? Under the old chronology, these tablets contain little to no interest to biblical scholars, and it's because of the time frame that they had these people existing. However, under the new chronology, they are dated to the late 10th century of Saul and David, providing an amazing confirmation and even expansion of the biblical narrative. This is some very, very important information. The tablets was carried to Egypt, transcribed onto papyrus. Papyrus is the paper. So they wrote it down, transported it, and then transcribed it on papyrus from the original Akkadian language / cuneiform. Cuneiform is the original Canaanite language, or Akkadian, ancient Sumerians, they wrote in cuneiform. And cuneiform is a lot of wedges. It's just a lot of wedges, and you have to be able to read it. But what they're saying is that these wedges was written on clay tablets and then taken to Egypt, presented to Pharaoh, but they had to be transcribed. See, we dealing with a psyche, a mind. These people were sharp. These people were sharp who Pharaoh had around him. The ancient Egyptians, the ancient Babylonians. These people was wonderfully inclined, intelligent people. They can read and write multiple languages for the majority of them. The majority of them couldn't read or write, but the majority of them could speak multiple languages. But those who were of the scholarly asset, like the priests and the people who wrote the laws and the covenants and the governors and the officials, they were multi-talented in reading and writing various different languages. But the Egyptians had a whole priesthood within itself that was skillfully talented. Even in the dark magic and the arts of performing things and doing things, we see that all in the Bible. They had a keen insight on forbidden knowledge, or not even say forbidden because it was evil, but forbidden because the majority of the people didn't have access to it. They had a keen insight on things, and these things are confirmed through the Bible, and now we're confirming these things in a different manner because they was able to read and write and transport thought on paper so that someone else can read it and have an understanding of what that original thing was in that other person's mind. That's what writing does for a person. That's what reading does for a person. It has the capability to transfer thought from one object to another object, thousands or a great distance away from each other. Great distances away from each other. Okay. So these scholars in Egypt and Babylon and ancient Sumer, they would write down this information and send this information to Egypt on clay tablets. And I could understand that. That way it doesn't break, doesn't get lost. Clay tablets are a lot firmer than paper or papyrus. And then once they get it there in their language, their thoughts was transcribed into the Egyptian language, and then it was transferred onto papyrus and then read before Pharaoh, so Pharaoh can get an understanding of it. All right. So where we at? Under the old chronological order, these tablets contain little to no interest to the biblical scholars. However, under the new chronology, they are dated to the late 10th century of Saul and Dawid, providing an amazing confirmation and even expansions of the biblical narrative. The tablets was carried to Egypt, transcribed onto papyrus from the original Akkadian cuneiform script into the hieroglyphs for the pharaoh to read, and then the original tablets stored at Amarna to be discovered some 3,000 years later. All right. The brother asks a question. He says, correct, they had books. The question is, where are the books? But that's not the question for right now. That's not what we do right now. Where are those books present? We'll deal with that at a later time. All right? We will deal with that portion at a later time. Akhenaten was the 18th dynasty ruler who sought to change the entire religion and culture of Egypt to the worship of one deity or one power. And that power was the sun god Re. Now, it all depends on who you are studying with, because Re was one power, Amun was a different power, or Ra, pretty much the same thing. Now, he worshiped this one power named Ra or Re, but he was in the personal form of his deity named Aten. Now, Akhenaten, his name was changed to give glory to his deity, Aten. And Aten was regulated when you see the picture of the sundial or the sun disk with the rays coming from it, that was to give glory to that deity. In the form of Aten, sun disk, under his rule, however, Egypt became militarily weak and was brought to the brink of evolution. The superpower of the day was crippled, allowing a new power base to emerge in the Levant under the rule of firstly Saul and then Dawid. This culminated into the reign of Solomon with enough consolidated power to force a marriage alliance between himself and the latest Pharaoh's daughter. Because Akhenaten introduced something new into the minds of his people, it caused confusion. People are most comfortable doing what they're accustomed to doing. And then when a new revelation comes in and people are exposed to it, some people become angry, some people become bitter, some people embrace it, but some people reject it. And that causes confusion into the midst of a once society that worked harmoniously, now is interrupted. That peace and that harmony is interrupted now because the king has introduced something new, and it baffles the people. Some people don't like it, some people stay away, some people embrace it. And that's what happened on the rule of Akhenaten. That's what happened. He introduced something new, and it caused confusion in the midst of his people. All right? And that was an issue for them. That was an issue. So what happened was, militarily, the military can only be strong if the mindset of the people are working in unison with each other. So when he introduced this and that confusion set in, it weakened his military defense. Therefore, it gave a lot of other nations the opportunity to rise militarily to become strong. And King Saul and King Dawid were two of those people. But if you notice, during the life of King Saul is when the people requested of the Most High a king. And the Most High said, okay, I'll give you a king. So maybe the Most High caused Akhenaten to change a different understanding in the things that he had, that he wanted to be or have in his mind about who he worshiped, so that they could be weakened, so that the children of Israel could be strengthened. You gotta, the Most High does some amazing things sometimes. Sometimes he does some amazing things. And if you're not following along, it can be confusing. All right? So now this trickled down from King Saul, who became king, and then Dawid, who became king after him, and then Solomon, who became king after Saul, after David, and then Solomon. But when Solomon ruled, Solomon got wise, in my opinion. And what he did was, he actually had an allegiance with all of the enemies of Israel. Well, not all, not every, but majority of them. He had an allegiance or an alliance with them. And part of his allegiance and alliance with them, what he did was he would marry into the royal household of those people, of those nations. Solomon was king, but he had a strategy. And that strategy was that he would marry the king's daughter, a princess, or someone in the king's family, so that the king of that nation would be at peace with the children of Israel and would bring, some type of homage to the children of Israel. Shlomo's name was Shlomo because he had 40 years of peace. His whole reign, his whole rulership for 40 years was peaceful. That means he didn't have to go out to war like his father David and like Saul did. He didn't have to go out to war to defend his position as king and to protect his people. He had 40 years of peace, and that's why his name is Shlomo. Shlomo means his peace. Okay? So we just talked about Shlomo just a bit. The Amarna tablets paint a picture of a tribal Palestine ruled by various city-state rulers of Canaanites, Philistine and Israelite / Hebrew origin, as well as a larger state of Amaru / Aram to the north. All these names are found in the biblical history. Very much corroborated the biblical picture of Samuel. They tell us that the coastal plains were in the hands of the Philistines of Indo-European origin, dominated by city-state rulers with Indo-European names, who communicated with Pharaoh Akhenaten in the Amarna letters. So what's that summing it all up? What it's saying is that a lot of the people that lived during the time of Saul, Dawid, Shlomo, and even Prophet Samuel, a lot of the people that lived during that time that are mentioned in the Bible, their names was mentioned in the Amarna tablets, verifying emphatically that this took place during the lifetime of the patriarchs of the Bible. This verifies it. They tell us that the coastal plains were in the hands of the Philistines of Indo-European origin, dominated by city-state rulers with Indo-European names, who communicated with Pharaoh Akhenaten in the Amarna letters. The Bible tells of the coastal plains being out of the control of Saul and under Philistine rules in page 207, figure 244. The city of Gezer in the Amarna letters is under Canaanite rule. Gezer in the Bible is under Canaanite rule until given to Solomon as a dowry by Pharaoh. No. Okay, let's deal with this. Danielle, I know that you shot. No question in my mind that you shot. When they say Indo-European names, what they're talking about is the Indo-European names that these people have given in the translation of the Bible. We know that the Bible's, okay, like for example, there are many names in the Bible that you will look at historically or even in the Hebrew and they translate different. But today we use an Indo-European version of that name being introduced to us today. Like for example, we have, let me think of a name, Shishak. Shishak was the name of one of those pharaohs. And Shishak in Hebrew might say Shimshun. But when they translate it as Shishak, that's an Indo-European. That's a name that we are most familiar with. All right? So you can look that up and it explained it to you that these Indo-European is not talking about European people, it's talking about those people on that side of the planet. It's not talking about Europeans like we understand Europeans to be today. But let's read on. It's just saying that these names have a twist to it. It's a slightly different twist to these names. They tell us that the coastal plains were in the hands of Philistines and the Indo-European nations. All right, so let me read that through. The city of Gezer in the Amarna letters is under Canaanite rule. Gezer in the Bible is under Canaanite rule until given to Shlomo as a dowry by Pharaoh in 1 Kings 9 and 16. Now let's see what they're talking about. 1 Kings 9 and 16. 1 Kings 9 and 16 says, for Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and taken Gezer, and burnt it with fire, and slain the Canaanites that dwelt in the city, and given it for a present unto his daughter, Shlomo's wife. Now that's in the Bible. Now the Amarna tablets speak about that incident, that Gezer, or it's a city, it's a Canaanite city. The Amarna tablets speak on a situation where the Canaanite city was taken by Pharaoh and given to Shlomo. The Bible speaks on it in 1 Kings 9 verse 16. And the Amarna tablets speak on it. So they're both confirming the same thing. Therefore, we have to confirm that this thing would be accurate. Either the Bible would be accurate or the Amarna tablets would be accurate, but in reality, they both are accurately corresponding to a thing that took place in history, therefore verifying the existence of certain people in the Tanakh. All right? Mentioning several times in the tablets are the Haberu. Now, the Haberu is a very interesting people. And the Haberus are mentioned in history starting from Abraham's time prior to the current Egyptian order that we're about to talk about. The Haberu was even thought at one time to be the actual nation that went in and superseded the Egyptians during the time of the Exodus. As if they went in without a fight, that's what history says. They went in without a fight and took over Egypt and ruled Egypt. that say about the Haberu people. And then some people say that they were really the Hebrews. Haberu/Hebrew. But the Haberus was a type of people, as we speak, they were a warrior type of tribe of people. The Haberus. They was about that warfare. They knew the art of warfare, strategic warfare. They understood. And they were executors and mercenaries and all types of things. You didn't want to play with the Haberu. And that could have been one of the reasons why when the Haberu went into Egypt, nobody fought against them, because they already knew that these people were straight assassins. And they knew the business. They knew it. Now, according to this, he says that the Haberu, who are stateless wanderers outside the rule of the city-states of Palestine and Syria, often employed as mercenaries by these rulers to protect their interests. It's like a bunch of ninjas that you had. Their lifestyle closely resembles that of the biblical Hebrews, and yet poses problems for scholars under the old dating system as to why groups of Hebrews should be wandering in Palestine 100 years before the Exodus. Now, however, these are the Hebrews of David time who finally entered into the service of Achish, king of Gath. You remember when we read the story of King David when he was running from running from Saul? It says that David had 600 men with him. They stayed with him. They was loyal and committed men. These men were referred to as Hebrew. These are the ones that they're talking about were assassins. David and his crew could throw down, and everybody knew it. Remember the story when what was her name? Abigail? When Abigail had a husband, Nabal. Remember this man's name's Nabal? When David's men got hungry, he sent a man to Nabal to request of Nabal some food and some water and different provisions so that his men wouldn't die in the wilderness. And Nabal refused. And then Abigail stepped in. She took all these baskets of food and bread and she took it to David and his men. But when Nabal refused to give food and water, it angered David to the point where David was ready to come and throw down on Abigail. Being as wise as she was, she realized that a lot of life would be lost if those assassins, if those mercenaries, if those Hebrews, although they were Hebrew, if those Hebrews would have came down and tore down, a lot of lives would have been lost. I can see David out in the wilderness now because Nabal was a Hebrew. And David and his men coming through, and Nabal says, or Nabal's men with his sheep and all those things was passing through, they said to David, we're afraid because people keep robbing us and taking our animals and taking our gold and everything we sell. Can you protect us? And David agreed because his men could throw down. People knew of him and they were afraid to interrupt with them. So David protected Nabal's animals and creatures until they made it home safely. But when he called about Nabal for a reward, for a payment, Nabal didn't come through. That's not how it's supposed to be when you got brothers who are looking out for you. When they're looking out for you, you're supposed to come through, especially when they don't get anything in exchange for what they did for you. But when David reached out to Nabal, Nabal didn't come through. Abigail came through, but Nabal didn't. So during that part is when David and his men protected Nabal's belongings to make sure that his belongings made it through to get back to him. This is what they're talking about right here. Now, however, these are the Hebrews of David who finally entered into the service of Achish. Now you remember when David was running from Saul and he pretended to be mentally disturbed? Remember that? Remember David act like he was mentally disturbed? And what he did when he was mentally disturbed, he went to Achish. And he went in like he was handicapped like that. And Achish let him in, him and his men. And they took care of him for a period of time until he was able to get up and go out and do what he had to do. This was a wonderful thing. Now, was that Achish that time? I believe that was Achish that time right there where he acted like he was handicapped. There was another time when he went to his mother's house and got help from them to do certain things. So it's two different portions. All right, but I believe that's the one when he pretended to be handicapped. But I know for certain it's the one when Achish gave him a piece of ground for him to conquer. And David and his men was fighting battles for Achish. And then one day they went to go to war against the children of Israel. And Achish's men said, no, we don't know about this David because he's Hebrew, he's an Israelite, and we get ready to have him to go fight against the Israelites. He might betray us and try to kill us. So let's see what happened. So let's go to 1 Samuel, chapter 27, 1 to 6. 1 Samuel, chapter 27, verse 1 to 6. And it reads, and David said in his heart, I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than to escape speedily into the land of the Philistines, and Saul should despair me. To seek me any more in any coast of Israel. So shall I escape unto his hands, out of his hands. And David arose, and he passed over the 600 men that were with him unto Achish, the son of Maach, king of Gath, and David dwelt with Achish at Gath, he and his men, every man with his household, even David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelite, and Abigail the Carmelitess, Nabal's wife. And it was told Saul that David lieth in Gath, and he sought no more again for him. And David said unto Achish, if I have now favor in thy eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country, that I may dwell there. For why should thy servant dwell in the royal city with you? And then Achish gave him Ziklag that day, wherefore Ziklag pertaining to the kings of Judah until this day. All right. So David was a very intelligent yet strategic man. Very intelligent but yet strategic. He went into the land of the Philistines, and the Philistines are Canaanites. He went into the land of the Philistines and lived there for a period of time with Achish. And Achish gave him some property, some territory. But while he was with Achish, he had to fight and destroy a lot of the nations that Achish had a problem with, David and his 600 men. In the Amarna letters, Jerusalem is ruled by Jebusites. Let me give you a little history on that. Jebus is the ancient name of Jerusalem, Jebus. And the Jebusites are the inhabitants of Jebus. The Jebusites are the inhabitants of the ancient name or city, well, currently is Jerusalem, but it was an ancient name called Jebusites. What I don't like is I'm looking at my screen and it looks like I'm distorted. And I don't like it when my picture is not clear, but I'm going to have to handle that. So let me ask you, family, is the picture clear on your end? Are you seeing a clear picture on your end? Because on my end, it looks cloudy, like it's distorted. Somebody let me know, please. The names let me finish this again. In the Amarna letters, Jerusalem is ruled by Jebus, a Hurrian elite race. In 2 Samuel 5, 6, and 7, this is also the case until the city is conquered by Dawid. Okay, clear. All right, wonderful. May the Most High be praised. It might just be my devices. The name of the ruler of Jerusalem is given in the Amarna letters as Abin Heba. And this is a mixed Semitic Hurrian name. The name Amarna tablet, the Amarna tablets tell of the whole region of Syria dominated by kings of Amorite stock, including a king called Azaru. The Bible in 2 Samuel speak of this kingdom being Aram, and the king being Hadadezer, one of David's enemies. Azaru is considered to be the accepted shortened of Hypocriticon of a longer, more formal name, given that Hadad was a prominent god of the Armenians, and that Azaru or Ezer means helper of. It can be seen that the Amaru letters use the shortening name of the Armenian king, helper of Hadad, or Hadadezer, a startling biblical confirmation. The Bible calls his name Hadadezer. They're saying that Hadadezer is a copulation of two different names. Azaru, which means helper in an Akkadian language, and Hadadezer, Hadar. And Hadar was a prominent god of the Armenians. So they combined those two names, Hadad and Azaru, together, and this is how we came up with the name Hadadezer. The hill country of the north of Jerusalem is dominated in the Amarna letters by a king who shows scant respect for the Egyptian pharaohs. His hypocriticism or shortening name is Labayu. Now we have to watch this. Labayu, translated as great lion. Labayu means great lion, and it's a noun. Wherein is a God's name. The career of the Labayu in the Amarna letters is strikingly similar to that of Saul, and this is an alternative name for the biblical Saul, the great lion of Yahweh. Well, Saul, as we know, he was a great lion of the Most High at one point, but Saul began to practice idolatry. Saul, and you won't see this in the Bible if you're not looking carefully and if you don't understand biblical Hebrew. Saul began to practice idolatry. Baal became the deity that he worshipped. And Baal wasn't the Almighty. Now, Saul began to have children as he increased. And as he increased, he began to name his children after the name of his deity, Ishbaal. That was his son that took over after Saul died, Ishbaal. And it means man of Baal. So that lets us know that Saul became wicked in many ways and began to worship another deity. Another deity. The Creator ain't a deity, but he began to worship a deity, and that name was Baal. And the verification is in the name that he named his son, Ishbaal. All right, but here they may not know that Saul practiced idolatry. Here they're saying that Saul was a great lion, which he was, and he was a great lion of Yahweh, in which I'm not going to contend to that. Yohe, he was a great lion of the Most High who went out and did a lot of conquering, even under the name of the Most High, when he worshiped and honored the Most High. He defeated a lot of his enemies. Another clue to Saul's other name is found in the book of Psalms 57, where his bodyguards are called Labaim, a unique word in the Old Testament meaning great lions. It is amazing then that as David hides from Saul's men in the cave of En-Gedi, 1 Samuel chapter 24, he penned Psalms 54, 57, and 4. And Psalms 57 and 4 says this: I am in the midst of lions. And in Hebrew it says, I am in the midst of Labaim. Now Labaim was the name of Saul's army, his military men, who was seeking after David's life. He says, I lay among ravenous beasts, men whose teeth are spears and arrows, whose tongues are sharp swords. Labayu, in the Aramean letters, was active in fighting against the Philistines on the coastal plains to the southwest, but was unable to conquer their cities. He was finally killed on Mount Gilboa. Labayu was killed on Mount Gilboa. King Saul was killed on Mount Gilboa. King Saul was called the Great Lion of the Most High. Labayu means great lion. Y'all see the similarities? The Amarna tablets has all this information, and the Bible has the same information, but using different names. He was finally killed on Mount Gilboa, now watch this, by a Philistine confederacy, a Philistine army. A rebellious king, he wrote to Pharaoh to warn him not to meddle in his affairs. And that's in the letter EA 252, page 208, figure 248. Labayum writes, now this is what Labayum wrote. If an ant is stuck, does it not fight back and bite the hand of the man who struck it? It is truly astounding to have in our possession a letter from King Saul. EA 252 was studied in 1943 by the great American archaeologist William Albright. He concluded that the writer knew little of the Akkadian language and that it was idiomatically pure Hebrew. An example, written in Hebrew first by the king whose beginnings were insignificant from the house of Benjamin and the least of his families. 1 Samuel 9 and 21. When Saul was initiated into kingship, his response to the Most High was, I am the least in my family, and then my family is the least of all the tribes in the house of Benjamin. That was Saul's confession to the prophet when the prophet spoke to him concerning the Most High making him a king. And then translated into Akkadian to be sent to Pharaoh. The untorted Labayu / Saul writes to warn off Pharaoh. A number of other Amarna tablets attest to this king's disruption of the era. And you'll find that in EA 289 states. This is what it states. Are we to act like Labayu when he was giving the land of Shechem to the Haberu, or Hiburu / Hebrews, means wanderers? Pharaoh responding back, are we to act like Saul when he gave the land Shechem to the Hiberus, or to the Hebrews? and was a term of contempt used by the other Palestinian leaders. The Jews called themselves Israelites, except when speaking of David's Hebrews, who were a mercenary group of drifters. David and his Hebrews, or his men, they traveled around. And if you know, it was a mixed house. David's men was assassins and they didn't play. So they called them Hebrews. They didn't just call them Israelites. Indeed, the Hebrews of David may be seen as a different group of Israelites. And you'll find that in 1 Samuel 13, 3 and 5. And this is what it reads. And Jonathan smashed the Philistines' pillar, which was in Gibeah, and the Philistines learned that the Hebrews had risen in revolt. Saul had the trumpet sounded. Now the Hebrews had risen in revolt because Saul and his men was trying to kill him. Saul had the trumpet sounded throughout the country, and the whole of Israel heard the news. Saul has smashed the Philistines' pillars, and now Israel has incurred the enmity of the Philistines. This event is mentioned by Labayu as he writes to Pharaoh, EA 2:52, to say that he was recapturing his hometown, which was taken by the Philistines, even after it had been agreed in the presence of the governors from Egypt that this would not happen. So what's happening now is Saul is writing a letter to Pharaoh. First he wrote a letter saying if the ant, which is small in reference to himself, and small in reference to Pharaoh's army, is struck by a man, will the ant not bite the hand of the man that struck it? So that's King Saul telling Pharaoh that if you intervene with what I'm doing in Shechem, my hometown that I'm taking back from the Philistines, if you intervene with that, then I'm going to come and we're going to strike you back because you're meddling in business that don't belong to you. Saul was a soldier. He was a gangster for the Most High at that time. All right? So they have verification of Saul having a conversation with Pharaoh in Egypt through the Amarna letters or the Amarna tablets. This is verification of the existence of King Saul, King David, Shlomo, a whole lot of the other kings, and a whole lot of the other people that exist in the Bible, therefore verifying, substantiating the Tanakh. Do y'all follow me? In 254, Libu's third letter to Pharaoh, he reprimands his own son for consorting with the Hebrews without his knowledge. Do you remember when Saul said to Saul said to Yehonatan about David and how he's going to kill David, and Yehonatan asks him, well, what do you want to kill David for? And then Saul got mad because Yehonatan appeared to have taken up for David. Saul threw the spear and it stuck in the wall and it frightened him a little bit. You remember when he was about to do that to his son? Or he had that conversation with his son? Well, that's what they're talking about right here. So when it upset Saul, he actually wrote us a letter to Pharaoh in Egypt. I don't know why he wrote the letter, but he wrote a letter to Pharaoh in Egypt when he had to reprimand his son. And this is also told in 1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 31. So let's go there. 1 Samuel chapter 20 and 31. And this is what it says. I'm going to start at verse 30. And then Saul's anger was kindled against Yehonatan, and he said unto him, Thou son of the perverse rebellious woman, thou son of the perverse rebellious woman, do not I know that thou hast chosen the son of Jesse to thy own confusion, and to the confusion of thy mother's sake, nakedness. For as long as the son of Jesse liveth on the ground, we all know who the son of Jesse is, that's Dawid. For as long as the son of Jesse liveth upon the ground, thou shalt not be established, nor thy kingdom. Wherefore now send and fetch him unto me, for he shall surely die. And Jehonathan answered Saul his father, and said unto him, wherefore shall he be slain? Basically, why you want to kill him? What has he done? And Saul cast a javelin at his son to smite him. He tried to hit his son with the javelin, whereby Jehonathan knew that it was determined of his father to kill, to slay Dawid. So he knew that his father was determined to kill Dawid at this point. So that whole situation I just read to you, King Saul actually wrote about that in the Amarna tablets to Pharaoh, king of Egypt. The deaths of Saul and his son Jehonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua, these are all the sons of Saul who were all killed. They are recorded in 1 Samuel 31. Let's read 1 Samuel 31. 1 Samuel 31. Saul and his son slain. Y'all ready? Just so that you'll have a history. If you don't have it, you'll have it after today. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines and fell down slain in Gilboa. And the Philistines followed hard upon Saul. They fell hard upon Saul and his sons. And the Philistines slew Jehonathan, Abinah, and Malchishua, Saul's sons. The battle went sore against Saul, and the archers hit him, and he was sore wounded of the archers. Then Saul said unto his armor-bearer, draw thy sword and thrust me through therewith, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through and abuse me. But his armor-bearer would not, for he was sore afraid. Therefore Saul took a sword and fell upon it. And when his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he fell likewise upon his sword and died with him. That is some extreme loyalty. He loved Saul so much that he could not take Saul's life, even though Saul was ready to die on Saul's command. He couldn't take his life. That's some extreme loyalty. And then after he found out that Saul was dead, he turned around and took his own life. That's what I'm talking about. You don't find men like that with that type of loyalty today. That man was willing to follow Saul to the grave. You got to respect it. All right, let's pick up here where we left off. They incurred at the battle of Mount Gilboa in the clash with the Philistines. Now, all the information that I just read is also found on the Amarna tablets. In the clash with the Philistines, after gathering all the fountain of Jezreel, after gathering at the fountain of Jezreel, the Israelites retreated into the mountains so that the Philistines could not make use of their chariots and cavalry. How the Philistines were successful in pursuing Saul up the mountain is not clear in the Bible, but in the Amarna tablet answers some intriguing questions. In EA 250, a ruler of the city-state reports to Pharaoh that Saul's surviving sons have asked for help to inflict revenge on the city called Gina for killing their father. Also in EA 245, Baridiah, Philistine ruler of Megiddo, writes to say that when he arrived on the battlefield, Labayu was already dead, and so could not be taken alive and sent to Egypt for public execution as Pharaoh had wanted. Why would Pharaoh want Saul dead? Because Saul was talking big bad talk to Pharaoh about what the ant would do to the hand that slit it. Pharaoh was a high, powerful dude. So therefore, he sent out mercenaries to little surrounding states that they would go and kill Saul. So by the time they got there at Mount Gilboa, Saul was already dead. In a map of the battle, page 218, figure 259, it can be seen that Saul took up position facing the Philistines over the steep northern slopes. To the south of his position atop Mount Gilboa lay the gentle slopes of the Vale of Gina and the town of Gina. It is envisaged that the men of Gina had been positioned to guard the southern slope, but that they betrayed Saul and allowed the Philistine archers and chariots to outflank and surprise Saul's army. So while Saul was at one part of the hill, the men he trusted of Gina, because Saul actually took over Gina at one time. So I guess they felt like they wanted their place back. But Saul entrusted them to watch the backside while he fought from the front. And the Guineanese people let Saul down and betrayed him. And the Philistines was able to come up from the back, and the ones from the front he was fighting, they closed in on him, and Saul was outflanked. He was overwhelmed. And therefore they destroyed Saul at the battle in Gilboa. When the Philistine ruler Berechiah arrived on the battlefield with the main Philistine army, now Berechiah was the one that Pharaoh sent, but Saul was already fighting Philistines. Saul and his sons was already dead. In the biblical account, Saul was mortally wounded by the Philistine arrows. Rather than being taken alive, he fell on his own sword and killed himself. Now that tells us all about Saul being written about in the Amarna tablets. So let's talk about David being written about in the Amarna tablets. After the death of Saul, Libayu, we know from the biblical account that Saul's son Ishbaal, now Ishbaal means son of Baal or man of Baal. Ishbosheth used to be his name, and then Ishbaal became his name. And David, now after the biblical account that Saul's son Ishbaal and David vied for power, they were struggling for power. Ishbaal and David, they was wrestling for power. And you find that in 2 Samuel chapter 3 and 1. And this is it. Ishbaal fled across the Jordan after the death of his father, and from there he wrote to Pharaoh the tablet EA 256, which reads, and this is found in the British museums, Ishbaal writing to Pharaoh, say to Yahamu, my lord. Now Yahamu is supposed to be a servant of Pharaoh who brings the message to Pharaoh. Message of Mut Baal, your servant. Mut Baal is Ishbaal, man of Baal. It says, I fall at the feet of my Lord. So how can it be said in your presence, Mut Baal has fled? He has hidden Ayab. How can the king of Pella flee from the commissioners, agents of the kings, his lord? As the king, my lord lives, as the king, my lord lives, I swear Ayab is not in Pella. In fact, he has been in the field campaign for 2 months. Just ask Benamini, just ask Dauda, just ask Yashuya. There are several points to note in this exact. Now, what I just read is, I know it's confusing to a lot of you, but it's going to be cleared up later on what's actually taking place. Pharaoh was the supreme ruler at that time. Ishbaal and Dawid was fighting for scraps. Ishbaal was fleeing for his life from Dawid and still trying to be respectful to Pharaoh as a supreme ruler. So he tells Pharaoh through his messenger that I'm not trying to run from you. I'm still going to pay my allegiance to you. It's just that I'm out in the fields running. You can ask Dawid, and you can ask Dawid, the son of Yeshaiah, or you can ask Benamah, and that's Dawid's servant. He said, you can ask them, and they will tell you where I am. I'm running because I'm at war with them, and I'm trying to save my life. Pella is a place, and Pella is one of the Israelite strongholds across the Jordan, who, however, is the Ayab that Pharaoh speaks of. It has been ascertained by linguists that Ayab, now think about Ayab, what does that sound like? How do you say Yob in Hebrew? Ayob. Ayab is Jayob, is none other than Joab, commander of David's Hebrew army. Joab or Ayab is actually the same name for Joab or Job. Okay? Joab was David's cousin who was commander of his military, his strategic army. Furthermore, it has been worked out that Beninamah is Baana, one of the Israelite chieftains of David's, but that's Bonaiah. Bonaiah is what it should have been. Bonaiah was the chieftain of David's military men. Chieftains of Dawuda is a former name for King David, king of Yehuda. And Yeshayu is the name of Jesse. Jesse is David's father. Yeshaiah is the Hebrew version of Jesse, which Yashia is the version of that, and he was the father of David. So, in essence, he's asking, Ishbosheth is asking Pharaoh to check with Ishbosheth's enemies at this current time to verify that he's actually running from them and he's not trying to hide from Pharaoh. As well as confirming the names of these characters, the Amarna letters even contain the name of Goliath in its Akkadian form, Galuta. David's powers began to rise after the death of Saul. After 7.5 years, he is king of all Israel. As his power increases, we read in the Amarna letters desperate pleas for help from Pharaoh against the rampaging Hebrews. Most poignant of all comes from the Jebusite king of Jerusalem, Abihibah. This man, Abihibah, who's the Jebusite king, was pleading for his life because of the Haberu. The Hebrews were going to, he knew they were under attack, and that the Haberu was going to kill them because David wanted Yebus for his capital. So he had to kill off the king that was ruling there, and the Israelites took over Yebus of that land. In EA 288, he writes that he is in the islands amidst a sea of violence as cities fall to the Hebrews round about him. The fall of Lachish is recorded, and Pharaoh is reminded that he has done nothing to help. The king asks that he be brought to Egypt with his brothers for safety. However, there never was a rescue as in 1003 BC. Dawid conquered Yerushalayim. Nothing is ever heard from Abinadab again in the Amarna letters. That's a wrap. So when Dawid conquers Jerusalem, he makes that the capital of Israel, the city of Dawid. The Amarna letters are not now. History teaches that when Dawid and them conquered that land, the way that they conquered it, the Bible teaches it. I don't know, just to say history, but the Bible teaches it that the way that they conquered it was from a water well that was under the ground that led to the city. And Dawid and his men, they didn't have to go through the front gate or on the walls. They went and snuck through the water well. It was a cave that was under the ground that led up into the city of Yerushalayim. Dawid's men didn't want Dawid to go. They wanted Dawid to stay back while they went. But Dawid went anyway. Y'all know how Dawid is. He is a soldier. He's a warrior. He's a fighter. So he went anyway. But they went in through the back and they surprised the Jebusites. And they took them all out. And from that day they took over and they owned Yerushalayim. The Amarna letters are not a recent find, but have been around for over a century, over 100 years. However, due to the chronological misrepresentation, they were not seen as letters dating from the time of Saul and Dawid. Even then, it greatly puzzled scholars as to how strikingly similar the Palestine of the Amarna letters was to the biblical Dawid picture, because they thought that the letters dated from 100 years before the Exodus. Now with the new dating, the similarities are there, because the Amarna letters describe the united monarchy period of Israel's history. The time gap was simply an illusion of the conventional chronology. Another document, and astronomy confirms the new chronological date for the Amarna period, as a record survives of the solar eclipse near sunset in the Igorot in April/May. They're saying that they have other celestial evidence of the time frame of the Amarna tablets. The Amarna tablets is going to speak of something devastating taking place with the skies, with the heavens. And the only eclipse or the only devastating thing that they saw around that time, as they trace back through history, through computers and other information, it took place around the time of Dawid, around 10 BC, somewhere in that area. So let's see what they say. In 1988, using powerful mainframe computers, it was determined that the only date in the whole second millennium BC when this could have happened was 9th of May, 1012 BC. This is 350 years earlier than the reign of Amenhotep III was previously dated, and backs up the new chronology of Dawid Roge. He's a writer. It is interesting to note that the only mention of Dawid found to date is the Tel Dan Stel tablet. Now you got to look that up. The Tel Dan Stel tablet we're going to deal with probably next week or the week after. But there's a whole lot of information in these tablets that we're finding to support the existence of the Bible, and not only the existence of the Bible, but the verification of the existence of a lot of the people in the Bible. It is interesting to note that the only other mention of Dawid found to date is in the Tel Dan Stela tablets, dated to the mid-9th century BC, and mentioning the house of Dawid. In this light, the Amarna tablets are clearly an incredible find, but the greatest among them must be the letter from the Israelite king Saul to Pharaoh, written by the untortured Benjamin king in Hebrew and then translated roughly into Akkadian to be sent off to Pharaoh, the most powerful man on the earth at that time. Is surely a precise or priceless artifact. All right. So now that's one, dealing with Moses, Saul, Dawid, Shlomo, Dawid's parents, his brothers, Saul's sons. All those are mentioned in the Amarna tablets. And all those give us a little bit of history as to what took place at that time. So now we're going to read a little bit about Moses. And in reading about Moses, we're going to find a man called Akhenaten that we talked about earlier. And we're going to see what these people have to say about Akhenaten, but I do have other resources and other information that I would like to share with you in reference to these topics. Moses and the Israelites. Throughout history, you hear a lot of things about people don't understand or believe that Moses even existed, who he was. There's a lot of doubt of the whole Exodus situation and the whole Moses situation. But we got these books from somewhere, didn't we? One of the most troubling problems for biblical archaeologists was the lack of archaeological evidence for Moses and the Israelites in Egypt. Now, we're not even looking at the pictures that they show us of the hieroglyphs on the wall of the ancient people that they call slaves in Egypt with fringes on their garments. We're not even looking at that. But let's go. Prior to the Exodus, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelites in Egypt, yet little or no evidence of their existence has been found, even though the sojourn is recorded as lasting for centuries in Scripture. We have been in Egypt for centuries. That means hundreds of years. But there is no archaeological, no physical, no kind of evidence that we were ever existing there. That's not right. The biblical chronologically dates the birth of Moses as around 1527 BC. In the new chronology of Egypt, the pharaoh of the throne of Egypt was Nefer-Hotep I of the 13th dynasty. The early Christian historian Eusebius, in his works, Evangelical Preparations, quotes from a book, I believe that's the Evangelist Preparations of the Evangelists, from a book, Peri Le Dion, concerning the Jews, by the Jewish historian Archeological. This work of Archeological has not survived down to the present day, but is also quoted in the Clements Shromata Artapanus, writing in the 3rd century BC, had access to ancient records. Artapanus, who wrote his writings in the 3rd century BC, had access to the ancient records in Egypt, temples, and perhaps even the famous Alexandria Library of Ptolemy I. This is deep. Ptolemy ruled around 300 BC. Somewhere in that area is when he took over Egypt. Ptolemy I. That's Cleopatra's father. Ptolemy the first, I believe, is Cleopatra's. It's either the first or the second, but I believe it's the first, is Cleopatra's father. Ptolemy took over after, that man Alexander the Great? After Alexander the Great died, they call him Alexander the Great. After he died, his men spread up, 4 of his generals, I believe it was 4 of them, they all spread out over the earth and took rule over different places. Ptolemy took Egypt. Antiochus took Israel and Jerusalem. Ptolemy took Egypt. And that's when you get Ptolemy the first. And Ptolemy's people set up provinces and power in Egypt, and they took over the kingship and the leadership. Ptolemy became the new king or the new pharaoh of Egypt. But according to my history and my knowledge that I know of, he was the first European king in Egypt. The first different bloodline, or I can't even say the first different bloodline because several conquerors had taken over Egypt and ruled, but he was the first European man to do it. Right? So let's read on. Artapanus writes what a pharaoh named Palmophanes was persecuting the Israelites. His daughter Maris adopted a Hebrew child who grew up to be called Prince Musos. Maris married a pharaoh, Nefertiti, Ninepheres. Prince Musos grew up to administer the land on the behalf of this pharaoh. He led a military campaign against the Ethiopians who were invading Egypt. However, upon his return, Khenifres grew jealous of his popularity. Musos then fled to Arabia to return when Khenifres died and led the Israelites to freedom. It may be only a mosaic story with similarities to the biblical account, yet the only pharaoh with the name Khenifres was Sohotep IV, who took the name Khenifres as his coronation. So when he became king, he changed his name to Khenifres. He reigned soon after Neferhotep the first of the 13 dynasties, as mentioned above, the pharaoh in power at Moses' birth. That's deep. That's deep. And I'm going to tell you why it's deep. Because the Israelites grew in popularity when a new king took over. That new king set out an edict that all the firstborn males of the children of Israel would be drowned in the river. Moses survived. He ended up being drowned in the river. But the whole life story of Moses, he very similar to that of the Bible, is that of the Amarna tablets. That whole life story. But they didn't have the exact same names, which you have to understand. A lot of the people's names in the Bibles were not their real names. A lot of the people's names in the Bible are attributes of certain characteristics and traits that these people had throughout their lives. Like, for example, Moshe means drawn forth. Drawn forth from what? He was drawn forth from the water. Moshe. He was drawn forth from the water, therefore his name was Moshe. But his mother had him for several years prior to letting him go to Pharaoh's daughter. So if his mother had him for several years prior to letting him go to Pharaoh's daughter, Did she give him a name? Did she name him? Absolutely, she named him. What mother you know has a child and doesn't give him a name? So then Moshe had a different name. Josephus, in his Antiquities of the Jews, with access to very old manuscripts and writings, in AD 93 also mentions Moshe. Ethiopian or Cushite War. He mentions Moshe's Ethiopian or Cushite War, and they call that Arabia. Here, Moshe led an Egyptian army down the Nile Valley, past the third cataracts, deep into Kush, modern Ethiopia, in the British Museum in a stela, page 261, figure 289, which tells of a 13th dynasty pharaoh, now he's a pharaoh, undertaking a campaign south into the region of Kush. That pharaoh is none other than Kineferi, the stepfather of Moshe according to Artapanus. He is the only 13th dynasty pharaoh who is recorded as having campaigned into Upper Nubia or Ethiopia at Karma on the Nile. An official Egyptian building was found, outside of which was discovered a statue of Kineferi. So dating this building to the 13th dynasty, this is many hundreds of kilometers south of the known boundaries of the 13th dynasty Egypt, and may have been a governor's residence. It would have been built to secure Egyptian interests in the area after military victory of the Egyptians led by Moshe, as this was the only Cushite war at the time with Egypt, as Moshe was a prince of Egypt and was 40 years old according to the biblical, where he fled to Arabia. He could certainly have led this military operation. An Israelite leading an Egyptian army to war? If this part of Josephus, according to the account, is true, then it adds weight to the rest of his account of the life of Moshe, and also gives us some firmer evidence to the existence of the charismatic leader. May the Most High be praised. Now that's some very interesting information, family. Now this is called the Amarna Tablets. Saul and the Amarna Tablets. For anybody interested, you can look that up and you'll get that information and you'll find it. Are there any questions about anything that we read so far? Are there any questions about anything that has been read so far? I just want to give some information about some of the things that we discussed in our readings today. All right. The theory linked Pharaoh Akhenaten and Moshe proposed a connection through monotheism, advanced by figures like Sigmund Freud and authors Ashman Osman. Now these people tend to think that Akhenaten may have been Moshe, that these two may have been the exact same people. If you have any questions, now is the time to ask your questions. Sigmund Freud's view. In 1939 book Moshe and Monotheism, Freud argues that the Moshe was an Egyptian noble and a follower of Akhenaten who carried the pharaoh's monotheistic Aten's religion out of Egypt after Akhenaten's death. But another brother, Ahmed Osman's view, in the book Like Moses and Akhenaten, Osman claimed that Akhenaten and Moshe were literally the exact same historical person, matching the timeline of the Exodus with Pharaoh religion upheaval and subsequent exile. So they give two different points of views to all these subjects, and you have to read it later to try to get a better understanding of what's actually being said. All right? So we're going to stop off there. I did have a video for you to watch, but it's all right. We ain't got to watch it. We'll get into it a little bit later, maybe in another presentation. All right. See, one of the things about history is that people very rarely enjoy hearing historical things, historical facts, historical truths. People very rarely enjoy hearing these things because it takes a unique type of a mind to absorb this information while doing a comparison as to the chronological order, how it all fits together. So most people are bored. Most people find this uninteresting, unimportant, but I promise you, in order for you to stand strong in this nation, you have to know some of your history. Therefore, Prince is bringing to you some of your history so that you will know some of your history. It's very important that we know who we are, where we come from, how the biblical ties and significance all fit to substantiate history, and how history substantiate biblical history. Without this information, and if you don't have some of this information, not knowing this information, then you're just as guilty as the Christians believing in that JC is the creator. Which, what I mean by that is, they blindly believe what they believe. You don't have to blindly believe that the Torah is history, that the Tanakh is history. You don't have to blindly believe it, because there are substantial evidence out there to give historical evidence of the people in the book, and historical events in the book, and things that has taken place in nature that are in the book. There are other places that you can find this, and a lot of times those places is amongst our enemies, people that we don't deal with, people we didn't even talk to. They would write about us to verify of our existence and different things that took place in our lifetime in the ancient days. Therefore, confirming that many of the people of the Bible, if not all of them, existed. Now we're going to deal with the archaeological findings of some of these people, and we're going to substantiate it with hard evidence. The first thing that we utilized was the Amarna tablets. The Amarna tablets summarized a lot of the things that took place within the nation of Israel, between the Israelites and Pharaoh, who reigned in Egypt. And if you notice, it went through several years of us, a little less than 100, but it covered the lifetime, or maybe a little bit more than 100, because it covered the lifetime of Dawid and his rulership, Saul and his rulership, some of the lifetime of Prophet Samuel, and it also covered Shlomo and his rulership. So, you know, it covered a substantial amount of history. So the information is very good for us to know, to utilize, and to use in our progress as we go closer and closer to the Most High. It's extremely important that you know your history, and a lot of us don't. But I find it important, therefore I'm going to teach it so that you'll understand this. Especially to you out there who are aspiring to be Maureen. One day you want to be a teacher or a leader. These are the things that you have to know. These things have to be in your mind. And you have to be able to readily spit these things out when needed upon, call them out, or when they called upon, speak on them, and address these things so that you can defend your position, prove your worthiness in this walk, and your position as a spiritual leader or a moray. You have to understand these things. So as boring as history may be, you should be listening in. May the Most High be praised. Toda Rabbah. Ima, are you present? There are a lot of things going on in here that we need to know about. a lot of situations, a lot of historical events that's taking place even in today's time that's correlating with the Bible that we have to have in relations as well. We have to have knowledge of these things, and a lot of us don't. So may the Most High be praised, honored, and respected by you and your loved ones. Is there anyone who wants to volunteer to close us out with a prayer today? Is there anyone wishing to close us out with a prayer today? This is the earliest we ended class in a long time, but it's all right. We're going to get this done. All right, if we all can rise, please, and face the east, we're going to close out with a prayer. Most High, great King, Master, and Ruler, and control over all things, we humble ourselves before you, Abby, and we pray for permission to approach unto your throne. Father, we thank you for such a beautiful class today. We thank you for all the mercy that you have shed upon us, your people, on this day. We thank you for allowing our eyes to awaken on this day, allowing us to come together as a people to hear your word and your truth. We ask, O great King, that you would allow the importance of our history to be into the minds of our people. Allow them to see the relevance of knowing where they've been through and where they are, and how the scriptures come to life in history and in our future. Teach us these things, Father, that we may never forget, that we may always be advocates of your truth, promoting and teaching and pushing forward, so that the earth may humble themselves before your throne and before your power, before it's too late. Save us, Almighty One, and all those who call upon you. Save them as well. Guide us and guide them, and teach us and teach them, and have mercy upon us all. Lead us all in the right direction of truth, happiness, harmony, and great wealth and substance, that we may fall in alignment with you and get your will done in this earth according to your divine plan. Unto thee, O great King, we humble ourselves, and we all say, Toda Abi, Abi, Toda Rabbah. Thank you, Father, for hearing our prayers. Thank you, Father, for hearing the prayers of your people, the children of Israel. Are there any questions, family, before we close the screen? Before we close it out? Are there any questions or comments? All right. May the Most High be with you. May the Most High bless and protect you all and strengthen you all. Ima, do you have any announcements before we close out?
That the first day of school is August 31st, and we just look forward to, after that, of course, the holy season is upon us in September. Yom Teruah is I just looked at it, Salakli. Yom Teruah is the 17th, I believe, of September. Yom Kippurim is the 22nd, and Sukkot begins on the 27th of September. So Yom Teruah might not be the 17th, but I'll look it up to make sure, and we'll post the dates.
And if anyone has any questions, you can always go to the website and get the information. It's the One Nation Calendar Coalition. .com.org.net. One Nation Calendar Coalition.com.org or .net. And it'll give you the information that you need. All right? Shabbat Shalom to you all. May the Most High be with you all and strengthen you all. Creator willing, if it is His will, we'll see you all next week. Im Yurtse Yotze. Shalom, shalom, lahit rao.
I need no takeover. Bezaman machala urofe. Bezaman hara unote. Bishbilze I need no takeover. Where I am gone, where Kobe Olamo. Baruch haba Yehovah, who knows in Lanukai. Bishville's I need no take more.
Beulah land, that temple Kephar Yim.
This is for the people in the front and the back.
are Beulah Land at Temple Kepharyim, a community, a school, a family of faith working to build something greater together. Our mission is simple but powerful: to restore, to teach, and to grow. Here at Beulah Land, we bring together the vision of Temple Kepharyim with hands-on action. Through our Goshen Hebrew Academy, we teach our children the Hebrew language, history, and principles that ground us in our faith. We celebrate Shabbat services and holy days with joy, keeping our culture and traditions alive for generations to come. Our work also reaches beyond the classroom. We focus on community growth, agriculture, training, and safety, building a place where families can learn, worship, and thrive. The name Beulah Land comes from scripture, representing covenant, renewal, and a people restored to their land and purpose. That is exactly what we are doing here, restoring faith, culture, and community life. But we can't do it alone. If our mission speaks to your heart, we invite you to support us. You can give through Cash App or PayPal at Build Yisrael, or learn more at www.GoshenHebrewAcademyTempleKepharyim.org. Feel free to contact us at BeulahLand@TempleKepharyim@gmail.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and even become a member to stay connected and help spread our message of faith and restoration.